retired homicide detective. I've interviewed thousands of people, from serial killers to ministers. Welcome to the interview room. Sunday evening. Welcome to the interview room. We're so grateful to each and every one of you here this evening with us. We have a special show about the Madeline Soto case. I've got Dr. Gary Brucato here with me, who I'll introduce here in a second to everybody. But one of the things I think the nation, and if not the world, well, I know the world, has been focusing on here is mom, Miss Jen Soto. And so we're going to take a look at what we, want to just kind of say from our collective experience. Dr. Gary Brucato, he's the author of The New Evil. If you've not read his book, it's sitting right here to my right. But the other thing that I think we need to always remember is he's not only a forensic psychologist, he is a clinical psychologist where he practices and has patients come in and sit every day, and he counsels and he directs. And so he's in a private practice, as well as he is an esteemed member of the Cold Case Foundation, where we work with law enforcement agencies around the world. And so his opinion is extremely valuable. And those of you who are new to our channel, if you've never had an opportunity to hear him, you're going to be in for a treat. And in full disclosure, I like doing this to Dr. Brucato. I haven't shown him anything that I put together, because I love when he just comes at this literally from a clinical approach. If this was a patient that had come into his office and sat down with him, I love his insight. This book right here, we get it on Amazon. It's been #1 in the true crime. And what other genres is it in, Gary?
Well, it's usually in the psychology section. Like if you went to Barnes and Noble, they have a subsection called personality disorders. It's usually there, typically right next to Michael's Anatomy of Evil. But you can also find it in true crime in some places. The book does very well. I'm very proud of it. I saw that Shortlist picked it as one of the top 100 true crime books ever written. Which meant a great deal to me. And it's used now in a few programs as a textbook, and people from all over the world read it. It's really interesting. It's recently been translated into Portuguese, so it's popular in Brazil, which is very cool. So so I'm enjoying it. But I'm mostly interested in how the ideas in it are catching on and becoming popular in the true crime world. And it's very interesting to me to see people talking about the theories that are in it without even realizing where they had their origins. So it's interesting how it penetrates. So I'm really proud of that.
And this is what makes him an expert in the forensic psychology angle thing. Now, why is that important? Because from my experience, and I've worked with a lot of, forensics guys, there are some people that don't have the field practicality, and then there are some people that have, just the classroom academic practicality. And Dr. Brucato is one who actually has not only sat down with the offenders, but he sat down with the victims. And that's in his private practice there in New York City. If you're in Manhattan, you can look him up. But that said, I want to hear so badly tonight what your take's going to be about, Gary, for Jen Soto, Maddie's mom. And so we're going to always approach this from two perspectives. I bring, a law enforcement background to this conversation this evening, and Dr. Brucato brings the forensic psychological background. And so if you're new to our channel, to the channel here, we want you to know that I do not miss your questions. Just kind of flag them, and I come back to them, or at some point as we're going along, we'll stop. But we do a lot of Q&A here, and you want to be a part of this. So we want to engage you as much as we want to engage ourselves in terms of what we're seeing. So without further ado, Gary, you got any thoughts or conversation before we kick this off?
Well, I think it would be important to dedicate everything we say today to the memory of Maddie Soto. I think that child did not just suffer acutely; she suffered for some time, and was made to perform atrocious acts on camera and be humiliated, and was probably afraid that those videos could be used to blackmail her or show to someone, which certainly adds to the terror and the abuse. Had she lived, her capacity for normal relationships might have been impaired forever. She was robbed of her life for reasons that are still unclear. And the other thing I think we have to think about as we proceed here is that the man who did this to her, Stephan Sterns, would be something of an anomaly if we found out that she was the only victim he ever had. And I think we have to encourage people that are listening that if you've ever encountered this man and you were ever uncomfortable around him or something happened to you, don't be ashamed or afraid to come forward. He can't do anything anymore. He's tucked away forever. But it would help people understand the depth of what he may have done. We don't know that for sure, but I think, Chris, you would agree that you don't just start doing that at his age and in the systemic way he was with a single victim. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, no, he's got a PhD piled higher and deeper with victims.
Well, it's sad to think about. We don't know that for sure, but I definitely think people out there, if you've got secrets surrounding him, please don't feel uncomfortable to come forward about that. And Chris, also, the elephant in the room, of course, is why did she have to die? Why right after she turned 13? And I think that's going to figure into whatever we talk about tonight.
Question number one tonight. You are reading my mind. And also, before I forget, I want to thank our mods and, of course, our subs and our Patreon members. I mean, we can't do any of this without you. So Teresa M, Maui Girl, Mimi J2, Miss Sophia, and, of course, Laura. We love you, and we're so grateful for each and every one of you. And I know many are praying for Teresa's family. They're having some issues with health. Please keep her husband in your prayers. His name is Jeff. He's a great guy, but he does need your prayers. And same with Miss Sophia. She's doing well, but we want to keep them in our prayers. And then, of course, like Dr. Brucato said, this evening is dedicated to Madeline. And, one of the things I want to it just reminded me when you said that, Gary, is, we don't know what's going on with mom here. But we have some insight into some of the conversations that are coming out. We have, a lot of the conversations, we haven't played them all. But tonight, what I've done is overlaid some of the conversations that, I think are important right now. So tonight, we're going to do the police interview from February 27th, which was right after Maddie went missing with her mom and just before the body was found on March 1st. So we've got a couple of days before they find her body is when this interview was taken.
Do you want, for people that look like they don't know the case in the audience, to just quickly summarize where she was found and the basic facts of the narrative that was given by Stephan Sterns for where she was and all that? Because it looks like some people are new to the case.
Yeah, and so, well, the mom is going to actually do that for us.
Okay.
And what I've done is overlaid a lot of the photographs, on the room photograph and others. I mean, there are hundreds of photographs that were released under the Sunshine Law in Florida. And so I put together an hour stop and talk conversation, Gary, for us.
Okay.
So that we can engage the audience here. And then simultaneously, what's going on in the investigator's mind. Remember, the first thing you have to do whenever a child's gone missing, and that evening when she first went missing, they called the authorities, and the authorities were backed up. They were looking for another child the same evening. And so really their response time was delayed. And when they finally did get on scene, the initial patrol officers started to feel that this, remember what we call DLR, right, to our TIR family members, does not look right.
Right.
They felt a little, tilted off here, that something just wasn't lining up. And even one of the officers on the early body camera says, "Hey, why was this thing held? It should have been pushed as a higher priority. Something just didn't look right." And the reason for that is significant. Whenever a child goes missing, now you take into account the age of the child, you take into account the totality of the circumstances in relationship to where this child, should have been, and then you measure that against 3 hours of time. And in this particular case, they were already behind the 8 ball because it took about 3 hours for them to get to the mom and ultimately the suspect and family members at the insurance agency where her mother works. Now, why is that significant? Because that put the investigation already behind the 8 ball. But I have to tell you, these investigators that conducted this investigation, this was not their first rodeo. This is a extremely professional way to show the world how to conduct a missing child / homicide investigation. Once they engaged, they dove in. And so we're going to go over some of those photographs as well in the cars, and I'm going to explain what you're looking at. And there's a lot of information that's been out there that is just kind of out there. But I'm actually going to show you or tell you what's going on from my 13 years in homicide. And, I worked over 300 murders in my career. So I want to see what you guys say. And we're hoping that you ask a lot of questions and, just flag it for me. It gets automatically flagged and put into a position where I can pull it up in a little bit. So without further ado, are you ready, Gary?
Ready, Freddy.
Okay. And again, he's not seen any of this. So in fact, I think I got hold of you, yesterday or the day before? Yep. Yesterday. It was yesterday. What are you doing? All right, here we go.
All right. Tuesday, February 27th, 2024, 11:16 hours for OCSO case 24-011313. Can you state your full name?
Jennifer Soto.
All right, Jennifer. So I'm here to talk to you today. We're going to talk about, and you're familiar with kind of why we're talking right now, right?
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell me when is the last time you were with someone?
Saw her, I'm going to say Sunday night.
Okay.
I heard her Monday getting ready for school.
So you last saw her Sunday night about what time?
I would say 11 p.m. before she went to bed.
And you were here at home?
Yeah.
Gotcha. And where did she go to bed? Was she in her room, your room, or something else?
She actually slept upstairs with... we have a guest bedroom. We were all going to sleep together in the same bed, but I needed some good sleep. And I got a new job recently. I haven't been well rested. I needed some sleep. So I asked, hey, can you guys go to the guest bedroom upstairs?
Mm-hmm.
I knew he was going to get her ready.
Sorry. Okay, so you needed some good sleep. So was it about 11 o'clock?
Yeah.
Okay, so first place I want to start, Gary, is first of all, help us understand the mentality of those who would pray and abuse children.
Well, it's actually a very mixed bag of people who do that. And also we have to make a distinction when you say children between very young children that some offenders would seek out, and people that are more like teens but are underage, right? So the first, of course, is a kind of paraphilic disorder that is referred to, of course, as pedophilia, and the latter is what's called hebephilia. And these are very different kind of offenders. For example, some literature says that offenders who target hebephilic who for hebephilic reasons tend to be interested in same-sex victims, and individuals that are more pedophilically inclined target opposite-sex victims, things like that. There do seem to be differences between them. So think, for example, of John Wayne Gacy, who was a murderer but a sex offender also, who was a hebephile, and the victims were all opposites, all same-sex, right? It's interesting to think about that. Now, the other thing is that you want to understand that even though there is a possibility that some of these people have brains that are aberrant, for example, looking at somebody with prepubescent features and finding that sexually attractive may require actually having brain abnormalities. This also sometimes happens in people who themselves were victimized as children, where it was normalized for them. Sometimes it happens in people who are experimenting with every manner of perversion, and they just want to try something that's different. Sometimes it's because they're interested in people that are weaker-willed or easy to control and like being kind of cruel and controlling or sadistic. Sometimes it's because they're projecting onto the child things that they experienced. And I've also talked to offenders who tell me really bone-chilling things like that it has to do with wanting to be somebody who doesn't realize how inadequate they are, because a child doesn't know that they don't know what they're doing, or that they're inadequate in some way, or pathetic in some way. There are all kinds of different reasons, but no matter how you slice it, it's a sexual perversion, and it is not something that tends to be a one-off. The individual who becomes attracted in that way tends to compulsively do so. And then they divide up into two buckets. There are those that are peculiar interpersonally, like Ken Lanning talks about, who are peculiar interpersonally, who need to just snatch a child because they can't make any small talk, the kind of person where they open the car door and tug the kid in kind of thing. Or you can see the type that is more sophisticated that tends to groom the victim. And that can be a long-term process. It's a heartbreaking process where an individual poses as a authority figure or a loving figure, usually someone you know well, a coach, priest, a rabbi, an imam, an uncle, a neighbor, etc. And the individual slowly breaks down the protective factors that keep a person from engaging in what makes them uncomfortable by dividing them from the people around them, introducing games and activities that normalize touching, sleeping in the same bed, showering together, some hand movements that place the hand in inappropriate places, etc. And they start to tell the child that they understand them in a way that nobody else does. They start to tell the child that, sometimes that they love them more than anybody else, that these things are normal, etc. And sometimes they scare the child into thinking that something's going to happen to their loved one if they don't go along. And the breaking down of those barriers is increasingly horrendous until it culminates in all-out outrages, sexual outrages, which can happen for a long period of time. I think there is no question that Maddie would have been groomed by a man who probably was taking advantage of the fact that her birth father was not in the picture, came in. Who knows if he became involved with her biological mother because he spied the child and was attracted to her. We don't know that. The audience may remember the Nabokov book Lolita, where the central character moves into a home as a boarder because he sees the underage daughter of the owner and wants to seduce her. So he marries the woman who owns the house, has sexual relations with her, when all along he's plotting to assault the daughter by seducing her into believing that he loves her.
Okay,
it's very, very disturbing. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, you put a lot on the table already.
Yeah,
and,
very disturbing stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, very disturbing stuff, but simultaneously interesting as a whole. So next question here, or next comment here is, there is evidence, even out of the mom's mouth right now, that she takes medication because she is bipolar. Mom.
Right. Now, let me emphasize, I don't know the mother, never met her. We can't make any statements other than what's been out there already, opined.
Yeah, she says it in this interview that she needs medication. Towards the end of the interview, she says, "Can I go back in and get my medications, or else, quote, I won't be normal." Okay. So the reason I bring that up is the suspect in this incident, it would not be unusual for an individual like this to select as his own victimology not only the Maddie, but the mother simultaneously, to manipulate and take care of, positioning himself to his advantage.
In a groomer, when you are going to try to groom the child by becoming the paternal figure to the child, where you have to become involved with the mother of the child first, you are going to identify someone not only who has a child, but who may be in some way compromised, either cognitively, emotionally, psychiatrically, etc. Because the whole idea is that the grooming process is really a grooming of an entire family, where the idea is that you come in a vampiric way and you do that. The trouble is that it is extremely difficult to tease apart in these cases, because they're all over the map. There are some mothers that flat out play along with the abuses of the person who comes in against a family member. Doesn't even necessarily have to be your child. For example, think of the case of Paul Bernardo, the Canadian serial killer who seduced Karla Homolka, and then after he had basically groomed her into getting involved into perversions with him, they assaulted and killed her sister together. Right, so that there is that type, and then there is the type where the mother doesn't know what's going on at all, or there is the type where the mother knows what's going on, but she is petrified of what's going to happen to her. I don't think we have enough evidence to say for sure what's going on here, but those are the classic scenarios. I think you would agree, Chris, from your own experience. You were a specialist in offenses against children as a homicide detective. when you when you went into family, see pretty much those three scenarios?
Yeah, and I think this interview here is very revealing, and we'll get into that. So let's keep moving.
I sent them upstairs, and I went to bed.
Chris, can I just comment on something?
And that was about 11.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go
One
ahead.
thing that I have to admit that I find very strange about this video is that everything is lily white. This entire home is white. It looks almost like a Roman structure, like made of marble or something, where the whiteness says something about the value that you're trying to convey. It likely means nothing, but it suggests something about one's cognitive complexity to have every single thing in the entire house exactly the same color. I mean, do you notice that there isn't even like a splash of color?
Yeah, and
it's like a sepulcher.
So her father owns this condo, and she pays rent, and there are roommates that they all rent out to. And the victim's room, quote, the sleeping area, it varies, but depends on, what's going on, scheduling, et cetera, based on what mom says. All this is what mom is saying, and you'll hear it firsthand in this interview that she gives here. But sometimes Maddie will use the desk downstairs, and then sometimes they'd be upstairs. What I found really interesting is he tells them that night, go to bed. And
So go to bed.
Yeah. He shows up that Sunday, and that Sunday night, she had worked, so she took some medication that knocked her out, according to what she's saying and according to what the authorities are reporting. And, so they make arrangements that the suspect's going to take Maddie to school the next morning. And they had talked about the McDonald's stuff and all this other stuff. And so he was really in a position of power that very moment, because he showed up that Sunday, and mom had not attended her birthday party, which was her 13th birthday party on Saturday.
But I just want to emphasize that the house, what you're showing me, it gives me the chills a little bit because it's so unadorned and unwarm. It's like if a child does a drawing, of a house, and there's no windows and no smoke coming out of the chimney, and there's not, you start to get the feeling of an unloved kind of feeling or simplicity. And there's something about this that just, it feels cold, unlived in. It's like you know what I'm saying? It's like walking down a way in a museum or something, but there's no pictures on the wall.
Yeah.
It's like cold in a museum without anything on the walls. Weird. Can't explain.
You guys normally all sleep together? Because I know you said that she sleeps in your room with you typically, right?
She sleeps with me typically. Typically when he comes into town, because he lives with his parents in Northport, Florida. Mm-hmm. When he comes to town, he'll sleep in the guest bedroom.
Okay. And Stephan is the one you're referring to, right?
Yeah, Stephan Sterns.
Stephan. How often does he stay here?
Oh, he moved away back in December, so I'm going to say he's visited at least 2 to 3 times since then.
Okay. Why did he move away?
He was offered his dad had offered him a job, but it fell through.
Oh.
So now we're trying to get him back here.
And he just visits?
Yeah.
When he visits, does he stay for like hours, days, weeks?
I would say.
Did you want to say something? I saw you leaning. I wasn't sure if you want to say something.
I'm just trying to figure out when they're recording this, how much time has passed since she's vanished.
Well, this is on the 27th. Her body is not, this is the next day that she's reported missing. So actually it's early on in the investigation.
Right. See, so this is
the night before. Go ahead.
So she doesn't know where our kid is. So I just want to emphasize, because I think based on what I'm seeing in the chat. So sometimes when somebody sounds, where there's an incongruence to their voice and the way they sound, like it doesn't sound like she's very emotionally upset. She's kind of flat. Sometimes that happens to people who are traumatized or who have some kind of PTSD or are in a state of shock. It's impossible to tell what that means. I was just reading, because Chris, you know that I've been writing about the infamous Lizzie Borden murder. I was reading what John Douglas said about that case.
Mm-hmm.
And he makes a point that it's problematic that one of the things that made people suspect Lizzie, who, by the way, definitely killed her stepmother and father, I believe, but people thought that it was a kind of evidence that she was totally callous. She didn't seem upset at all. They're like in the house dead, and she's being interviewed, and she didn't even show any emotion. She didn't cry one tear until she was acquitted. And John Douglas said, having worked with people for years, he knows that's off the table as meaning anything. Because when you've worked with people who have lost children or lost family members, sometimes they're numb. Sometimes they have inappropriate affect. Sometimes they're drugged up or high. Sometimes they're on psychiatric medication. And I agree with John Douglas that we don't really know what that means. I think that that's not something we should assume about. But I think what is clear is that there's something about the way she's talking that doesn't match the affect that you and I, the average person would have. We imagine if we were to lose our child. But that is how some people sound. And
it's interesting that you say that, because in this interview, you'll, like, again, I keep going back to, one of the thoughts I was having is, okay, the authorities have come forward and said she's not going to be arrested. Okay? Meaning at this point, they're not going to charge her with anything. And then when you hear this interview and she says, well, can I go back in the house and get my medication because I'm bipolar? Mm-hmm. And I need to feel normal.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's kind of like, well, wait a minute. What's going on here? Is she in a swing to the right? Is she a swing to the left? Is she manic depressive psychosis? I mean, what direction is she headed in? And where was she at when they sat down with her this night? And was she medicated to your point? Is it possibly there are meds on board? And as an investigator, you got to be thinking that.
Right.
Because the female detective, when she says, can I go back and get my medication? When the female tells her, look, you're going to be gone all night because we're going to process the house.
Right.
And she goes, oh, okay, yeah, no problem. But can I go back and get my medication? So, yeah, great point.
Well, Chris, just to wrap the point up, when they had that Lizzie Borden trial, that it came out that she was on morphine at the inquest for her nerves. So you're interviewing a person that's going through an ordeal, and they're being cognitively affected by an agent that they're taking for emotional reasons. It's a little difficult to make assumptions about the person's affect and presentation. So I just want to put that out there, because I think if it turns out that she herself, she cracks open and starts talking, and we find out that she herself was abused in some way, that would make sense, that presentation. And if it turned out that she was somehow complicit and whatever, then we have to make a different interpretation. But I think right now, being agnostic is the fairest approach.
Okay.
Days. This time we had planned on him staying a whole week because I was going through training at work. So I wanted him to be here to help me with the dog, help me with the training.
Okay, so this time he was planning to stay for a week. How long has he been here? Or when did he arrive, rather, this time?
I can't remember if he arrived Saturday or Sunday morning.
Now, see, in this, he just shows up. He shows up. And in her head, her daughter's missing, but she needed him to help with the dog.
Right.
So I think there's something weird going on here.
An enmeshment of some sort of where you are dependent on
That's fine. Sometime this weekend.
Be afraid of. Right. Some enmeshment. What was that alcohol trolley there?
It's some wine and stuff in one of the bedrooms. Yeah. Do you want to see it?
I was just interested in that. Yeah, it looked like the only thing that had any color to it.
Or when did he arrive, rather, this time?
I can't remember if he arrived Saturday or Sunday morning.
Okay, that's fine. Sometime this weekend?
Yeah.
Yes. Nice.
So that was last night around 11. And so about what time did you hear her on Monday morning?
I heard everyone getting ready around, I'm going to say 7:30, 8 o'clock.
This is one of the roommates' room.
And was it just Steph? Who else lives here?
I have roommates.
Okay.
I have Angelica Negro, who's one roommate, and then Natalie Rosiero.
Okay. And you just heard all of them, or did you hear anyone specific?
No, I just heard, if anything, Stephan came and woke me up accidentally because he was trying to let the dog out.
Mm-hmm.
And the dog gets really nervous sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So I was trying to help him with that, get him on his leash. But he got him situated and took him for a walk.
Okay. Did you hear around 7 or 8?
I heard noises in the kitchen, but I'm not sure,
Not sure who it was exactly.
Who it was exactly, yeah.
Gotcha.
It could have been any of the roommates.
But you didn't see her leave Monday morning. Were you still in bed or still in your room?
I was still asleep, yeah.
Gotcha. What time does she normally leave for school?
We usually leave around 8:50 at the latest.
Okay. What time does she have to be to school by?
9:28 is when school starts.
Gotcha. And so I think you had said the previous night, you and Stephan had agreed that he was going to get and take her in the morning? Okay.
And they were going to stop at McDonald's and get breakfast, but she changed her mind last minute and did not want McDonald's.
Okay. When'd you find that out?
When did I find that out? When Stephan called me around 10:18 in the morning, I had stepped out to go get blood work done.
Mm-hmm.
And he had just let me know that he just got back home from running a few errands. And that I asked, did you guys ever just stop at McDonald's? And he said, no, she changed her mind. He tried convincing her a few times, but she did not want McDonald's anymore.
At what time did you leave the house yesterday in the morning? Or what time did you step out, rather?
I'm going to say around 9:30.
Had Stephan returned at all?
No.
So you were there from, just so I have my times kind of right, so you woke up around 7 or 8. You saw Stephan, because you helped him with the dog, because he was letting the dog out, right?
Yeah.
And then did you go back to sleep, or were you just kind of in the room?
Okay, a lot going on here, Gary, in this journal. This is her journal.
The mother's journal?
No, victims.
Oh, disturbing.
Thoughts?
We're absolutely sure this is Maddie's.
Yes.
Because, all you have to do is read it. It's self-revelatory, self-explanatory. It says, my fluctuating moods, anxiety, and trauma-related symptoms affect my memory, concentration, focus, energy levels. I also have severe trauma responses when I encounter all males. And, Chris, And
then she scratched out, that includes my perpetrator.
Well, you took the words out of my mouth. That what's interesting about this is you get the sense of a person who wants someone to find out because they understand what's happening to them is scary stuff. Is this the last page in this journal?
I don't know. It's just a photo overall.
Almost makes me wonder if This is why she had to be eliminated, because she became aware of her own abuse. You know,
Some folks are saying it's the mothers.
oh,
So,
see that's why I said, because.
But what about the perpetrator? Why would the mother write perpetrator?
Well, then even more interestingly, what that implies is that the mother herself views herself as victimized. And I think, and notice, this would suggest somebody who had a history of their own, victimization by men before. And you have to picture somebody coming in and taking advantage of that. I'm the good guy. I'm the one that you could trust. I'm the one you could love. I'm the one you could let you guard that. And then meanwhile, you're taking advantage of their child. So that's the thing. We don't know how this figures in. Now, if that is definitely the mother's, I think that's extraordinarily powerful.
But I would say she's also been a victim of SA as well.
That's what this is implying, and
Right.
and that scratched out part suggests, you don't want somebody to find this. You're afraid. Now look. I don't know if what happened.
Okay, wait, I want to clarify this for the audience, so everybody.
Yeah, both ways it's interesting. I've never seen it before, but
I have other photographs that I refuse to show, of journal writings of her in compromising poses, that are definitely
horrifying.
Madeline's.
So this is Madeline's notebook, as we originally surmised.
So this is the problem with the social media. Okay. Everybody is saying this is the mother's. Half people are saying this is the girl, the victim, Madeline. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I have all the photos, every single one of them that the police have released. There are some extremely explicit drawings from Maddie, that are no question, none, zero, that she was being abused extensively.
Right.
I would submit this is consistent with her feelings versus the mother's feelings, because here this is specific about her inability to concentrate, her memory, etc., and the severe traumatic responses. Okay. And this is what I don't want to do on this channel, is attribute something like this, when I've seen the other side of it, to speculate, oh, well, this belongs to mom. But right, because we don't know. But what I do know is this is consistent with the other information that I refuse to show on YouTube or any other place.
Well, I appreciate that enormously, but I will say that whoever wrote it, it speaks to the idea that there was trauma and people being afraid, but wanting to get it down on paper, like I was here, so that, like, sending out an SOS so that maybe somebody could find out about it, because there's something about writing it and then trying to block part of it out and whatever. And if the child wrote it, it makes me wonder if he found out that she was starting to become aware that what was happening to her was abuse.
Exactly.
Because that would explain why the child had to be eliminated. It's also possible that she aged out of what he was attracted to. He might not be a hemophile. He might not want someone who's 13.
Lorraine, I don't have the photos. I have the writings.
The writings, drawings, you're saying, not photographs.
Drawings, correct.
Right. So I think that, I don't know either way. This is the very first time I've ever seen this. I think either way it's profoundly valuable. But the common denominator is this guy was an abuser that came into a family like a vampire and was doing horrendous things to this child, and chances are, took advantage of people's vulnerabilities. And I think the jury is out on what was going on with the mother. We don't know. But this is very disturbing and heartbreaking, Chris, because you have to picture somebody who says, I'm here to help you.
And actually, Reggie, 13-year-olds do write like this when they are abused.
The content, it could be, Chris. Are you saying that the drawings are suggestive of somebody who is trying to show what happened to them?
Yes.
Yeah, see, that's profoundly disturbing. I think, let's just say, whoever wrote this, it suggests that this is a deeply abusive man, and that's the key to this whole thing. But I want to know if that's the last page in the journal and where that journal was found. Was that hidden?
It's in one of the bedrooms.
But it would have been just out in the open where he could have seen it.
Yes.
That's very important, Chris, because
I concur. It could be a motive.
That's
right
an
that could be the trigger.
Could be something triggered him to think that he had to. And the other thing is, I just want to, because you know this better than I do, because again, I'm getting caught kind of off guard here, which is fun on the one hand in terms of for the audience to sort of see how you think about things when you don't have all the, you haven't thought about it in advance, so it's more spontaneous. But at the same time, we got to be, just in the interest of accuracy, is very, very important. I want to understand. Did you hear anything in what she said that we know for a fact is a lie or an inaccuracy in her story?
There's a couple things in there that, just kind of go off into left field. But then I think, if I was sitting there and I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of those investigators that evening. I mean, this is early on this interview. It's like it's within 12 hours of the cavalry and everybody coming there. So there's a lot going on here. Okay. And what's interesting here is the fact that this is sticking out, to your point. I immediately caught this and said, whoa. Okay. And then I saw the other stuff and I went, wow. And what's crazy is there are people, and I will never understand this piece of our civility anymore. There are people that will come on here and argue whether or not this could be from the mother or from the the daughter. In my opinion, who cares? Both of them are saying that they're victims of something. But more importantly, what's the totality of the circumstances? We have a 13-year-old little girl who has been found murdered, and all the evidence points to that guy, and all of the writings in her other stuff that I've seen, which is released under Florida law, the Sunshine Law. But I refuse to put it on YouTube or any place like that. Others can do that, and if others want to do that, I wouldn't recommend it, but that's up to them.
I commend you for not doing that, Chris.
Well, I would never do that. You know me.
Hey. I think that the key here is it's also possible that this was written after the child disappeared, and this is somebody rehearsing a story, laying out what they might say to explain. We don't know. All I know is that this is an indictment of a person who has been abused. They're not specifying who does it to them, but they certainly want someone to find out.
Well, she doesn't. She doesn't. To your point, yes, I agree. She wants to tell everybody that about my perpetrator, but then she scratches it all out. And that's exactly what a child would do. Am I right or wrong?
Yeah, well, I've seen that, and I've seen that with adult victims too, because you get ambivalent. That it's like the person has in their mind the voice of the abuser saying, "Shut your mouth or I'll kill you," that kind of thing. And so we don't really know. I'm also curious why it's numbered. Like, I'd like to know what numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4 are, and whatever this checklist is. Do you know?
No, the police are holding that piece of the puzzle back.
Well, that's obviously going to be extremely important. But I think that this notebook is a bigger deal than it seems superficially, because I still don't understand what the need was for the elimination. I don't believe that the killing of this child was part of an escalation of a sexually perverse person's sexual appetite. I think that this is an elimination murder where you have to get rid of a witness or somebody who has changed in some way, where your dynamic is now going to be different, and you have to get rid of them. And then there is the classic ridiculous cover story, where you act like an invader has come in and the whole thing. And Chris, the child was already deceased when she was being transported to the forested area, right?
Right.
And he's like caught on tape throwing out her laptop and certain stuff and the whole thing, unceremoniously just dumping it, right? The whole thing. So she was to him clearly, like totally objectified. And after all this intimacy and closeness that he faked, he was able to throw her away like the package.
Now, when some up there, when people are pointing out, it says my work. Well, maybe that's her schoolwork.
No, we don't know.
We don't know what that means, but we definitely know this person who wrote this had a perpetrator. And right now we have evidence that the only perpetrator in this was Stephen. And so I'm leaning on this belongs to Madeline. I'm going that way personally. I could be wrong, but we'll find out in time. But the cops right now took a picture of this for a huge reason. And if we just take that first top piece, it says my ability to work, okay, my memory, etc. Well, maybe the other pages we're talking about her schoolwork. We don't know. Okay, so let's run from there.
I laid back down and went back to sleep.
Okay. And then, do you remember what time you woke up after that?
I believe I set my alarm for 9 a.m.
Gotcha. So it would have been around 9 a.m. that you woke up. And in that time, you didn't see Stephan return at all? Okay. You left around 9:30, and then Stephan called you around 10 to say he got home?
Yeah.
Cool. Got it. Okay. Did he say anything else aside from she didn't want to go to McDonald's?
About her, no. About his morning, yes. He had tried going to the vape shop when it opened right after he dropped her off from school and waited, but they never opened on time, so he came back, hung out a little bit, and he came home around 10 and then went back out eventually to the vape store to go get some vape stuff.
So he left after 10. What time did you get back home for the day?
Let me check something. I want to check what time my blood work appointment is at. I'll give you more of an accurate time.
Yeah.
Okay, so my appointment was at 10:15 and it took them 45 minutes to see me. So I didn't get home until 11:15, 11:30.
Mm-hmm. And was Stephan back at that point in time?
I'm gonna say yes.
Okay.
I can't remember.
And then what did the day look like after that? It's fine.
So I did my blood work, then I came back, and then I just waited. I waited for the rest of the day until 2:30 to leave. I wait in the car line, so I'm first in line to pick her up.
Yeah, that car line can be vicious.
Yeah.
So you left approximately 2:30.
Yeah.
And pickups around 4, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, when you got there at 4, then what happened?
I waited in the car line for about 10 minutes, and she never came out. So I thought maybe I missed her. I couldn't remember if I told her I was picking her up from school that day or if she had to walk to the office.
You know, this is, I love this stuff. Seems like Social Security. You know, I tell you what, when it comes out in trial and everybody sees these other drawings, it's exactly, problematic. And mom right here, in my opinion, if I was sitting across with her, she's not really, and I'm, as an investigator, I've seen a lot of folks interviewed tens of thousands of people over, my 42 years in this business now, 25 in law enforcement, and Gary knows what I do during the day.
Oh, yeah.
I'm still working. I have just, people are just people. They're so different in so many different angles and so many different ways, and they talk in so many different things, or in so many different, in and out of body experiences, for lack of a better term. And mom sounds like she could be medicated. Mom sounds like she could be in shock. We just don't know. We just don't know. And,
So I went to the office to see if she made it. She never did. I drove around a little bit.
Okay.
I drove around a little bit, looking for her. I went back to the school. The school was closed at this point. I wanted to speak to somebody at the office to see if anybody could tell me if
agree.
she had been
She may.
there. I think at this
That's her
point I had
changing.
called, before I went to the school, I actually called her best friend and I said, "Hey, with you, I can't find her. She didn't walk to the office and she wasn't at school when I went to pick her up." She said she never made it. She's it's her first or second period, and I'm like, "What do you mean? I dropped her off, or we dropped her off close to school?" And she said she didn't make it to first or second period. I said, "Please check with the rest of your friends."
Chris, so just because based on what I'm reading in the chat, it's important for people to understand what we have to do is create a kind of decision tree, right, of possibilities. And right now, the possibility that the mother knew absolutely nothing, the possibility that the mother knew and somehow was complicit in some way, the possibility that she knew and was completely petrified and being abused herself, right? All of these things are on a decision tree as possibilities, but you're stuck there. That anything beyond that is conjecture. So that what people are saying, I don't care what you say, this, I don't care what you say that. The fact is, we're sort of stuck there. So all we're doing is saying these are the buckets into which this could go, and there just isn't enough information. We're getting
that's exactly what Stephan saw, right, Gary?
right, and exactly, and that's important also, because I think the one thing that we can say for sure is that I think Stephan was a control freak. And, I think that's part of the reason there's such a cold, unloved feeling. I mean, it's like going into like a monk's cell or a prison or something where everything is completely under control to the point that it's off-putting to people in the outside. Everything is, accounted for and kind of mechanical and so forth, and simple and austere. And I just think that he's a control freak. And even this thing of like the murkiness of identity where we say, who wrote that? Who's the victim? That's exactly the world that a predator like that goes into. So the whole idea is that a predator like that is digging, rooting for a person who has malleable identity, who's in a kind of setting where they don't know who they are, they don't know what they feel, they're traumatized, they're abused, and you go in and you give them an anchor and you pretend that you're the solution, but you're actually just adding to a big pile of abuse. So that's the whole thing, and that's, you have to understand that to understand what is so diabolical about a person like Sterns, is that the whole thing is calculated for effect from day one. Chris, you know that people like that, offenders like that, sometimes even meticulously study how to look like they care, right? So like the pervert who says to you, I learned how to fake looking really upset so that if I saw the kid detached from his mother in the mall, I could go up to him and say, little boy, come with me. I'll take you to your mother. And I had to fake it because I don't really care about anybody, but I learned how to pretend. That's what you got to understand, that everything is faked.
Right. And I think everybody in the very beginning, every investigator, I mean, at least these guys are very, you can tell this isn't their first rodeo. And they're sitting there going,
Yeah.
I mean, just like I'm doing, I'm sitting here going, huh. Let's see here. The body hasn't been found yet. So they're thinking, I wonder if she's covering for him. Or I wonder if she's involved. Okay. All of those options are on the table, everybody. I mean, we're with you. We're with you. Okay.
Right.
But in that time, that space, that moment, that interview, okay, they don't know that yet. Okay, we know that because we can read all the stuff and he's been arrested and everybody goes, she's covering for him. Well, at that moment, they didn't know that. No, nobody knew that. They had to take it for face value that she says, I went down to this, the school. I waited. I went into the school. I checked with the office. I called her girlfriends. Everybody said she didn't show up. And they call the cops and the cops show up 3 hours later. That's
Right.
what's going on here.
Right, but Chris, the other thing that the audience really needs to understand, it's very important, and you know this as well as I do. It doesn't matter if your abuser is stuffed in a cage. It doesn't matter if your abuser is dead. You still think that somehow, you don't know how they're going to do it, but somehow they're going to get you. And you don't know if they're going to slip out of jail and come kill you. You don't know if they're going to lie. You don't know what they're going to say about your reputation. You don't know if they're going to reach through the bars with a tentacle and get you. But the problem is that fear follows you no matter where you go. I have worked with people who have been abused or stalked that move to the other side of the country and still have to lock all the doors and all the windows and screen the calls and the who comes to the door and the whole thing, because the whole point is it's been traumatized into you. And so we don't know how long it might take for someone to say, I'm ready to say what really happened here.
We don't, and all of these comments are good comments, okay, but we're talking about this interview, the same almost 12 hours into it. They don't, at the time the detectives are getting these words, they didn't know Maddie was killed in the house and that Jen slept through it. They had no idea, but that's a great comment, Joan. Okay, so let's not get ahead of the interview here.
Right.
Okay, in retrospect, there's a lot of things we don't know. Okay.
She did. She got back to me, said none of them saw her today. I emailed one of her teachers. Her teacher texted me her attendance for the whole day and told me she wasn't in school at all. That's when I knew something was wrong, and I freaked out.
See, right there, she says, I got hold of the teacher. I freaked out. That's when I knew something was wrong, and I freaked out. Okay. Now, this is the investigator listening to the mother, and he's not talking to the suspect at this point, or who would ultimately become the suspect, because we see on the body camera and all this other stuff, all this other information. We're just taking face value right now, this very first interview with mom.
Okay.
Okay.
Is it typical to walk to after school?
If I'm working, yes.
You see, she gave two options there. If I'm working, yes. That means there's another option. Okay. Well, then when wouldn't it be typical would be the next question.
And where I mean, in relation to the school, like, is it a close walk, long walk?
It's a very close walk.
Okay. So typically in the morning, or I guess before Stephan moved, did he live with y'all?
They edited
so it's typical of him to be able to get her ready in the mornings and drop her to school. Do you all tend to split that responsibility, or what does that look like?
Typically, I do it.
Okay.
This morning, because of my work schedule, because I've been so exhausted, I asked him to take over and do it, and he said he would. Okay.
Has he done it before, though? Like, is he familiar with how to drop her off? And
So let me explain something that we're seeing with the photographs here. First of all, you'll notice all the doors were sealed, that evidence tape. That's done before the vehicle is towed. Okay, so that you know the chain of custody, once that tape is cut, that somebody has to explain why that occurred. Okay. The next thing that we're seeing here is there's a process of evidentiary recovery from the crime scene investigators, the CSI folks. Okay. And in the photographs that we're seeing right here, these are overall photographs. You're not in the vehicle yet. You've broken the tape and you're taking overall photographs of the vehicle. And you notice it's on dollies. So you can move that. They can move the car if they had to get it into a different area. And so just so everybody sees, they're not going in there collecting anything yet. Eventually they do. But the second step to this is they're going to start putting numbers in.
Say he's done it once or twice before. I'm not too sure.
Okay. In the time since he's been back, well, not this time because he's only come back over the weekend, but in the other times, he's done it maybe once or twice.
I'm gonna say yeah.
Is there any reason that he drops her off, or he dropped her off a block away instead of dropping her off to the school?
Because she asked. Because she is embarrassed of his car.
Really? When did she express that?
Multiple times when we've been like, okay, I think Stephan might take you to school or he might pick you up. She goes, can he pick me up far away?
Now, I will tell you, everybody knows, the parents were interviewed of Stephan's, and the father gave, a tremendous amount of information. I haven't chosen to play that yet, but other channels have, and you can hear the dad, basically throw the kid under the bus. But simultaneously, he's like, no, there's something wrong here. But more importantly than that, let's just focus on Stephan. Okay. This is a guy that had thousands and thousands of photographs on his devices of abuse, SA, not only just of Madeline, but Dr. Brucato and I are both in agreement, keep me honest, Gary, that there are going to be more kids somewhere that are going to appear in these photographs. And that's what the PD was doing at the storage facility, looking at the computer information in there and any kind of surveillance information. They wanted to go in there and see, did this guy, because typically sometimes ICAC units, that's Internet Crimes Against Children, guys that keep these kind of photographs like that, there's going to be a plethora to utilize, the old Three Amigos analogy of information that's going to come flowing. Okay? But in this particular case, there are going to be two cars involved in this incident. And I'll show you why and explain that a little bit deeper here.
Can he leave me here? Like, I don't want to be seen. I'm just like,
Yeah.
What car does he drive? I'm curious.
it's that Buick.
Oh, okay.
Because I just was going to say that I've been working on a chapter for the new book I'm going to do. One of the new books I'm going to do, where I'm writing about cases that involve this new evil of filming or photographing the offense, where you kind of think of yourself like a director that's perfecting a fantasy and you want to keep it like a trophy, forever, and you keep changing it, and perfecting it in your mind and the whole thing. And what I found in my research on these cases is that, interestingly, in a kind of poetic way, as is often the case with these offenses, it's photography and filming that winds up catching the person. So, like, they get caught on a camera out there in the street, in their car, so that you can show that they lied about where they were, or they're caught, dumping a body or whatever. And it's interesting because that very obsession that they have of using cameras to preserve forever an offense winds up being the thing that is their undoing. It shows both sides of technology, right? The side that is used for good and the side that's used for evil. And I think ultimately it is going to be all that surveillance that's going to prove that his story didn't work out. And so, the cameras turned on him.
Yeah, no,
Right.
And it's a lot of exactly what you just said, Dr. Brucato. Actually, now one of the disturbing things here that we have in the car, there's evidence or information, it's verbal evidence, meaning not verbal evidence, but there's a verbal statement from the father that one of the animals was injured in this car. Okay. Or they, transported a dog or something to that effect, but it's animal blood. So when the authorities get this, they see all of this, evidence in there that potentially could be blood. But don't be surprised if it turns out potentially that it could be animal blood as well as hers. There could be a mixture here because there's evidence that she was slumped over in the front seat. But there's also evidence from a witness that says, there could be something else going on in that.
But to her, that's an old car.
Let's keep that in.
Fancy taste. I get it.
You can just barely see the smudge on that one.
Yeah.
Can you remember anything about Sunday or Saturday or this weekend where she may have said that she was wanting to hang out with friends or something she was wanting to do or anything?
On Sunday, she actually had a party, and she had some friends come over.
Mm-hmm.
So she hasn't expressed that she wanted. She actually got to spend time with friends and family. She had a great Sunday.
Now, this is important in my opinion. This is, if I was the investigator and I was looking at this, and I've seen this pattern before. This is potentially a cough, an asphyxiation cough. And because it's on the right side where the victim, Madeline, was sitting, if strangulation is in play, then this would be consistent with that as a possibility. Okay, you'll see, because it's an asphyxiation where somebody, if they're being choked, goes like this. And if the lungs are involved, and there's purging starting to move, this could be very disturbing.
She came back with a lot of presents. She was super happy.
You see, it's in not only 1, 2, 3, 4, or in the one to the left, but the one to the right is a push off. Okay, and that's usually, you'll see that this blood is moving.
Okay.
Right there. See that blood, how it's trailing?
Yeah.
Okay, that's called tailing. Okay, that means the victim's moving that direction. So the victim, if they were sitting there, is falling to the right, and that's where that blood is headed.
So
Now that also could be a dog, right, with a bad tail and throwing blood all over the car. That's a possibility here. So the investigators have to take this on both sides. When they hear from the dad, i.e. Stephan's dad, say, yeah, we had an injured dog and, blood was going, you'll find blood all over. They're going to test this. And if it belongs to the victim, then there's a higher probability, unfortunately, of what I just mentioned.
arguments at home recently or anything?
No, nothing like that.
Has she ever, in the totality of, I guess, everything, as long as she's been, ever gone off to spend time by herself, or gone to hang out at a park by herself, or something to kind of clear her own head?
So there's a lake right behind this building.
Mm-hmm.
She'll sometimes sit at the dock or by the lake, but I check on her often.
Okay. I'm just trying to figure out, if she, I don't know if something at school upset her, something here upset her.
Now, again, just to go over, this is great police work from the Sheriff's Department. Absolutely great police work. Remember, what they're doing is they did the overall photographs. Now they're going in and taking the items out, and they're laying them out. Notice that's a piece of paper. Okay. They're not holding it up. I mean, there are photos, and I'm going to show you why they're doing it or explain it from my perspective. And then, but in this is great police work because they're laying each individual item out. The one thing you never know in a homicide case, each one of these items is a puzzle piece. Okay. Think of it that way. Each one of these items is a puzzle piece because you don't really know what the puzzle is until you've had an opportunity to sit down with the perpetrator. And, it's never how you think it is. No matter how many times I've been on crime scenes and talked to suspects, it's never how you think it went down. They always change the dynamics. I mean, just like patients, right, Gary? When they come in and talk to you, you may have an initial assessment, then all of a sudden the dam breaks and here it all comes and you go, oh, I would not have, I did. What was the movie Best in Show where he said he had 2 left feet, Loopy?
Oh, yeah.
I did not know that. Where she's not a boyfriend?
Yeah, well, I mean, when you're dealing with personality disorder, that often happens. A person has a capacity to compartmentalize, and then something makes them sort of suddenly show it, and the mask falls away, and you can see this compartmentalized part of the self. You can see that in people that are traumatized too, where there's an immediate contacting of something, and then it pours out. And that is, when it happens, extremely revealing, but it's always a reminder to never make assumptions too quickly with people. And that is the whole trouble with relationships is that if you bond with a person and fall in love with them before you see what's behind the curtain, when you see what's behind the curtain, you'll make excuses because you're bonded. Because we are evolutionarily designed that, like, for example, if we have a child and the child has an illness, we still love the child. If we're involved with a person and they become ill in some way, we still love them, right? So we're prepared to kind of find a way to still see love in a person that's giving us a hard time or who is having a hard time. And, this is a problem because the way that these people operate is they say, first, I'll make them fall in love with me. They'll get to like me. They'll become dependent on me. Then I'll unleash the Kraken of who I really am, right? Mask goes off. And then the person at that point has already sort of cornered themselves with you. They've either isolated with you or they've convinced themselves that you love them, and they'll make any excuse in the world because warts and all, you're the person they love, right? And you'd be amazed, Chris, the excuses people can make for people who turn out to have very cruel personalities, who abuse them. You see that also with children who want to love their parents, and the parents are awful. That they make
hundreds of domestics before the court ever took it seriously, where it's just horrible. Let's keep moving for the sake of time.
Not that it would be anyone's fault, but if there's somewhere that she may go for, like, peace of mind.
Yeah, it would be the lake right behind the house.
Does she do any extracurriculars?
No.
Got it. Now, your roommates, I know you told me their names earlier, but can you give them to me again? I didn't write them down.
Sure. Angelica, and then Negro, Nigro.
That appears to be transfer of some sort.
Uh-huh.
And then
this is interesting because there are 5 gloves. There should be 6 of the blue ones.
Mm-hmm.
Nathalie, which
So
is
one is
Nathalie.
Mm-hmm.
Rosero.
ROS.
That appears to be transfer.
Do you have their phone numbers by chance? If they're not here. Are you okay? Do you have to use the bathroom?
No,
Now there are 6.
Okay.
They found another one somewhere.
Let me see where is.
I think it was in the back. I think it was in the trunk. That's Buddy.
Okay, Angelica, she primarily speaks Spanish, so you probably need a Spanish speaker.
Got it.
It appears to be transfer, but we won't know until they test it.
And then Nathalie. Got it. All right. When's the last time you got in any kind of trouble at home?
That one right there, number 7, is what I would call 90 degree. What 90 degree means is it's straight down. So if somebody were on that side and they were slumping and leaning, they would have to be far enough that it would not hit their body, and it would have to be straight down. And that means sometimes it could be indicative of, either positioning, moving, not necessarily during a fight or something to that effect. It could be an after effect, i.e. the person's already expired and a second person tries to move them. And as they move them, remember, you have now, if you've taken somebody's life, what people forget, murderers, what they forget is they now have the weight of that victim as a bag of concrete.
Right.
Okay. So they have to move this person very carefully because it's extremely heavy. It's dead. That's why they call it dead weight. Okay. That is 90 degrees. That's straight down.
I'm going to say a few weeks ago.
What was that for?
The top one looks like it could be a snare of some sort.
If she gets a yelling
Moving
or
from
if she
one
gets
item to the next.
in trouble for anything, it's for her disorganization and messiness. How she leaves laundry on the floor, her room's a mess.
My question is, in this blanket there, does it look right? Right? Is it out of place? And is it something that came from the room?
She keeps her space very disorganized. So I kind of...
That could be asphyxiation again. Okay?
Get on top of her. Do I remember the actual argument? No.
That could be also
when I
from
went through
a
her
dog.
text messages back on February 2nd or 3rd.
My question is, there's dirt on this as well. So was this on the inside or the outside of the bag?
Expressed to a friend that,
If it's on the inside of the bag, it's possibly could have been put over somebody else's,
Right.
over her head.
I was crazy. I was acting, being nuts.
Almost old stuff to say.
Yeah, apparently I had...
Now, this right here is a picture of a blanket before luminol, or what they call blue star. Okay. And watch the second picture.
I don't remember this in this...
Boom. All of that acceleration right there are the enzyme of something. Okay. It could be anything, by the way. Let's all keep that in mind, folks. Okay, guys? It could be anything. Could be orange soda. That will explode. But that is a lot of fluid of some sort. But it's interesting, if you'll notice the first one, before they sprayed it, and by the way, you need a special lens and you need a special way, typically in what they call an ALS, an alternate light source, to blow on this thing. That's what we call it, to shoot up on this thing. And it will, all of a sudden, it will pop out. And, we used to wear these special glasses because a lot of those lasers, and boom, there you go.
Apparently I had...
See, that's what you're looking at, right? And then they say, okay, everybody put your glasses on. So if you're welcome to homicide, everybody. So we're all standing there. Imagine ourselves all standing there, and we've got these glasses now, and they say, okay, get ready. They hit the glasses, and then they shut the lights, and boom.
I don't remember this in this conversation. I remember saying this once, but not...
Now it's lit up because its special lenses are utilized.
In February. But she...
Look at this one. That's a lot of problem here.
had said, if she continues to behave this way or not listen, when she
See how this is what it looks like before luminol or blue star. And what they do is they spray this on there, and the other one is
turns 18, I'm not going to want to live with her.
popping.
Or also I would ship her off to her dad's.
Oh.
But I never.
Where's your dad live?
Houston, Texas.
Okay. Has she ever expressed wanting to go back and live with them?
That could be anything.
No.
How often does she see him or talk to him at all?
Talks to him once in a while.
It doesn't necessarily mean that it's connected to the human body, too, by the way. It could be absolutely anything. Now, the top stains, the 1, 2, 3, 4, that could be watermarks. That could be, maybe enzymes from, anything.
Via phone or probably?
Yeah, via phone, yeah.
Okay.
Text message or Instagram, they'll message each other.
They won't know until they take it to the lab.
But I talked to him last night, and she's like, just so you're aware, she hasn't said anything about making plans to come over here or see me or come visit me, so he doesn't have any information on where she might be.
Okay.
He's actually willing to come over here, too, if we need him to.
Trunk.
Okay.
We've heard a lot about the flat tire. This is one of them.
But she's never made any plans, I guess, to go see him.
No.
What's her dad's name? Do you know his phone number?
You'll see where it says labeled on the bottom, trunk. So these are all items they took out of the trunk. They take them out in order, top to bottom, and then they place them on the paper. And the reason the paper is so important is because it will trap any type of, trace evidence, hairs, fibers, anything. There could be, there was a caper in our area in San Diego. Was Craig Pyre's a CHP officer who murdered a girl by the name of Karen Knott. And when they got him and they got her at the ME's office, they pulled a single gold thread off of her, and that thread matched his CHP patch. And that was one of the ways he was taken down. Bad guy. He's in prison in California where he belongs.
So I think it's this one.
It's the glove box. Everything is very methodical here. Now, this is interesting because there's a single bullet, and then Jen is asked in this interview,
In Houston.
are there guns anywhere? And she says yes, upstairs. So, but I don't see any evidence of high velocity inside of this car. In fact, the right side over there where I don't know, it looks more like an asphyxiation type of problem. That could be evidence of that more so than anything else.
That would be consistent with the method of killing in a lot of similar offenses.
Yep.
But if we were to statistically analyze them, Chris, I also think I'd like to take a moment and point out what a elegant job this interviewer is doing with her.
Absolutely.
It's actually quite brilliant because what he is managing to do, those of us who have taught interviewing, either clinical interviewing or forensic interviewing, he is managing to come across as totally non-judgmental and agnostic and very kind, while at the same time subtly giving a person an opportunity to contradict themselves by saying, "Oh, I didn't catch that. Could you give me that again? Could you, whatever. Oh, can you give me their names? Could you, whatever." And in doing that, just looks like he's a fact finder, but you get the sense that the person interviewing has already noticed that some things perhaps are not adding up completely, and is not going, "Aha, let me stick the third degree light in your face," like in the old movies, but is just managing to kind of give a person an opportunity to kind of walk themselves into that.
Yep.
And,
Let him
I
run.
have to say, it's actually a very masterfully done interview, and I think you'd agree it's quite brilliant.
100%. This guy is, yeah, no, that's what I've said from the beginning. And you and I have agreed, Gary, from the beginning
Yeah.
that no, he's letting her run. And that's what you do, you just let him run.
Yeah, it's
And-
it's the difference between an experienced person and someone where it's their first rodeo and they botch it. Because they're trying to have an aha moment to impress the superior or to get the person to just like admit something or whatever. And what I think is really great about this is this person is just kind of saying like, I'm here just to hear you and not lead you anywhere. Just kind of,
That's right.
and it's very artful. I just want to point that out. To
Good
give
observation.
He was in the
credit
military.
where it's due. Yeah.
And he's going
Way.
to pull a Columbo on
Either
her.
Kansas or
Oh, so he's never had any like custody or
No.
anything with her.
nothing.
Okay. And has she ever formed a relationship with him where they bonded and talked or anything that like she? I guess I would try to rule out the possibility that she would be trying to go to Texas and see him or meet up with him or.
They're as close as they can be with how limited contact he does have with her. He texts her once in a blue, right? Not
okay.
as consistent as I would like him to, but
Okay.
I don't think she's making her move to go.
Yeah.
She's left her debit card here. All of her money's here. Her cell phone's here.
Is it typical of her to leave her cell phone? Does she normally have it?
She's got ADHD. She's very forgetful. This happens often.
Oh, so she frequently forgets her things?
Yeah.
Okay. As far as her mental diagnosis, she's diagnosed with ADHD. How long has she had ADHD?
Since she was like 5, 6.
Now, I love the extent and the totality of what's going on here. You'll see this is the garbage that was dropped when they went around and they got all of the, when they saw the video of him throwing stuff in the trash and they went looking for her backpack and they went looking for her computer, her work computer, or excuse me, her school computer, etc. The interesting thing about this is each one of these garbage pickups, as we all know, every dumpster that comes in and, and is dropped and it goes back down, they remember the crusher starts crushing all this trash back up in there. So you'll see they recovered her backpack. They recovered a lot of things and a lot of items. And it looks like some type of, fluid of some sort, paint or something. And you'll see a lot of the bottles inside of her backpack were crushed because it was pushed from the trash truck. But what's fascinating is each one of these dumps, these trash dumps, they are meticulously documented. Where it came from, what neighborhood, what dumpsters, et cetera. And here the law enforcement agents, the officers and deputies were waiting for this trash truck to come back and dump.
They also diagnosed her at the same time with autism.
But Chris, I just want to really drive home for the audience the personality of the offender who took this child's life, because the case has been adjudicated. We can say that, right? I would say this. Imagine an individual who, when he was interviewed, went out of his way to paint the picture of being so loving and caring that when he dropped the child off at school, he was looking in the rearview mirror and watching her fiddle with her bag and making sure that she walked off, safely, and was sensitive that she didn't want to be seen getting out of that car, and the whole cover story that he gave. But the true story, when that story was coming out of his mouth, the true story is that he thought of this child essentially like the wrapping on a piece of candy that when it's used, you just toss it in the trash. That as that story is coming out of his mouth, he is conscious that he has literally taken the things that belong to this child and thrown them into a dumpster. And her body is dumped like garbage. that's what you got to understand, Chris, is that you're not talking about a person who doesn't even know how to fake human.
Right.
They fake human, but they couldn't care less. It's like having empathy but no compassion. And that's scary stuff, Chris. That's what you got to understand. And that is what the mother would have fallen for when she fell for him, right? It's that thing of, I'm going to come in here like a snake oil salesman, and I know exactly what your fears and needs are, and I know just how to read you and pick up. And that is why the mother, having some kind of mental illness, figures so much into this story, because that's the doorway that can be taken advantage of by somebody like this. And Chris, he was so good at it. I just don't think it could have been his first rodeo.
No, I agree. Well, I don't know if we killed again or killed before, but we do know, and I think, wouldn't you agree?
Probably we're going to find out that there were sex offenses.
I think there's going to be a couple, either photograph. We know there were hundreds of photographs on his phone that they found, but there's going to be a slew of victims. He started with her at 8 years old.
How old was he when he?
I forget, guys in the chat. Can you tell me? Can you remind me how old he is again? If you guys wouldn't, if somebody could put his age up in there, I think he's in his 30s.
I think he's 37. I'm looking at
29.
He's 37.
Oh, wait, 37. Yeah.
And Chris, you know that offenders like this, sex offenders, they don't begin at 37.
No.
Right. And because the whole thing is that it's going to start probably as early as people on average start to be attracted to anyone. So this is a person who would have, I know I've talked to a lot of offenders, sex offenders, and, incarcerated people or people that had previously been incarcerated or whatever. And the thing is, they hide it for a long time. And then there's when they act out, and they usually build up to it by committing less offenses. It's almost as if they're grooming themselves, breaking down their own barriers to get themselves to do it. And that's precisely how they know how to do it to someone else. They broke down their own barriers over time, right? So you start to hear those stories. It started out with drawing pictures, imagining things. Then I started looking in windows. Then I started stealing things from people. Then I started finding ways to touch somebody through their clothes without them knowing it. And then I started taking pictures without them knowing it. And the next thing you know, boom. Once it starts, it's a progression.
The valve is.
I heard a story that this guy worked at Disney World.
Yeah, he did.
Right. So you and I both know, Chris. I mentioned John Wayne Gacy. Think of him dressing as a clown. Sometimes those things are a way of it looking legitimate that you're making bodily contact with children.
Yeah. I want to keep moving here because we got a lot to cover.
Oh, okay. All right, fine.
Okay.
Listen, I
know, but not yet. I want to keep going.
So she's had an autism diagnosis for a few years now. I've reassessed her recently. They told me she had some autistic traits, but they weren't sure if she was autistic. So
do you ever notice her mental capacity impacting her ability to, I guess, be around other kids or function normally?
I would say sometimes, because she acts... I'm not sure. Sometimes she'll make some decisions that I'm just like, where did that come from?
Is that would that be a result of a mental disability, or would that be the result of her being...
Sure.
Does she... I guess, basic questions I always...
That's a tire that they found, and her backpack is right there with it.
Sad.
So yeah, this is great police work. They were waiting for the truck. It shows up. Boom. They get her hit.
Can she feed herself without assistance? Does she shower?
This is significant, not because they found the tire, but because they found the tread. If they have tread out there at that crime scene, they're gonna match it.
Bathe without assistance.
And that's why they took this photo. That particular photo, you notice the worn tread in the middle? That is going to be significant if they've done a casting out at the crime scene where her body was found.
She has a phone so she can text and talk to people. She has friends at school.
That's her backpack
Gotcha.
and her shoe.
And has she ever complained about school?
And it was crushed inside. You'll see when they open the backpack up in the lab. Now, in a situation like this, you collect it there, i.e. you do overall photographs like this. You don't dig through it yet. Okay. You just kind of open it up to see what's inside, but you don't start taking items out. You do that in the lab, and that's exactly.
Not complained
the
exactly. I know
protocol
it's tough on her.
They
She's given a
open it
lot
up,
of work.
They see a
She's
computer,
always
they see
behind
the
on work.
books. Okay. Now we got car number 2
Okay.
in play.
Got it. And I think the deputies already last night kind of went through a social.
Now, one thing to point out here, this car is white in color, as you can see that. All the doors, the trunk.
Of course it's white. Everything in that possession
Well, the reason I'm saying that is in a minute it's not going to be.
Wow.
Okay. They're going to hit it with what we used to call red wop. And what red wop is powder backwards. POWDER. Okay. We called it red wop. And you're going to see the reason for that is any type of fluids, any type of water that has been, evaporated, any type of fluid that is evaporated, if the car has been, it's going to pop. Okay. And they're also checking for fingerprints.
A little bit, but if you're okay with it, I'd actually like to take her phone so that I can see if I can get anything else from it. Typically me being able to go through it and go through text and social media will help me sort of establish a pattern.
And before they do anything else, if they're going to bring a dog in or anything like that, they're going to process this car. Okay. And then they're going to bring, cadaver dogs or anything like that. And you'll see it here in a minute after they process it. And I'm going to point some things out.
Where people go and whatnot.
Did you notice that the interviewer asked her permission to look at the phone when he could have just said, "We're taking the phone" as part of a warrant or something? But I don't know if that was done to see how she would react to, like, if she knew there would be something suspicious on there, or if it was to give her a sense of agency. I don't know, but I thought that was very interesting because he didn't have to ask. Am I correct?
No, he could have said, let me have your phone. But at that point, remember, we're only 12 hours into this during this interview.
Right.
Okay. And you're 100% right. He could have said, blah, blah, blah. I'll get a search warrant, yada, yada. Okay. But here, if she says, no problem, that's consent. Okay. Right. And he's going to take that phone and he's going to download it. And they download that into a program, right, called Celebrate.
Something you'd let me do.
Will you take her phone away forever, or just for right now?
Just for as long as I need it to actually go through it. So I'll give it back to you as soon as I'm done. As soon as we find her, I'll give it back to her, hopefully.
She doesn't seem nervous, Chris. Doesn't that make you think that she doesn't know what's on there? Now, I don't know, but she didn't get defensive in any way.
No, she's like, yeah, if it helped find my daughter, I think that was the impression that she was, projecting.
Yeah, I mean, that's...
Now, is she naive? Is she, could she be hiding something? They don't know that yet. I mean, remember, they're still only, hours and hours into this. Okay. But what we do know is, things aren't lining up.
That's just about all the questions I have at the moment.
The keys are laid on the windshield like that by the tow truck driver.
You know her better than I do. I guess my last thing would be like, what do you think based off of everything that we've talked about and everything that you've learned so far? Is anything sticking out to you?
No. Based off of everything, me knowing her and knowing how she is and how tight-knit we are, like, I don't think she would run away. Mm-hmm. I feel like she was taken, like, on that short walk from where she was dropped off to the school.
Now, see, mom is still under the belief that she has a close, as she goes, as tight knit as we are. Okay. She still thinks she's a good mom. And, there's something weird here. Okay. The investigators don't know that at this point. They don't know what we all know right now. Okay. She could be, she could get an Academy Award at some point, for, best assisting actress or whatever the deal is. Or she could be, maybe she's, UI with bipolar. Maybe she's got other things on board going on here. They have to roll with it. And this investigator's doing a great job. I find this is fascinating because that's the tire over onto the right. And
it was early in the morning. I'm not sure how many cars were around.
He had just carted that.
I think she was dropped off somewhere between 8:30 and 8:45 in the morning, which is earlier than we normally take her.
Remember in his cover story, he blew a tire?
Oh, yes.
That's a different tread than the first tire. Okay. So what this tells us is he's getting rid of his tires. Right. So that means where the body dump is, then he is trying to cover his tracks even with the cars.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I want to say, I think from what I understood, Orange County got footage of someone by the church in a description of what she was wearing early that morning, just hanging out in the parking lot, and then she got up and left.
Yeah, so the video, they wrote it here, but there was a video of essentially what looks like her at around 8:45, just about that time, walking into that church parking lot that's right near where she got dropped off by Stephan. And it looks like she sits there for about 15 minutes or so and then walks away. So
I'm wondering if it's typical for her to wait at that parking lot too for my stepdad to pick her up from school, so it's not abnormal for her to hang out there
in that parking lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
These cameras all over these buildings, and there's also a couple of trail cams out there. They're going to have a digital footprint of this guy. He's toast.
Okay.
See the cameras were his undoing. The same way that they were part of his fantasy life. That's the way it works.
Can you think of any reason why she might have chosen yesterday morning to wait there? I mean, obviously, your stepdad's not picking her up in the morning. But
I wonder if she knew, like, if she had an idea she was super early, so she was just trying to kill time a little bit. But I don't know why she didn't go directly to the school. She should have.
Okay.
I know when Stephan dropped her off, he said that he saw her rummaging through her phone as he drove away, like deeply looking into her backpack. Yeah. I'm assuming she was looking for her phone and realized she didn't have it with her at that time.
Got it.
But
okay. Does she have any kind of boyfriend or significant other at school that she's ever talked about or expressed?
No boyfriend. She did recently tell Stephan that she had a crush on a boy.
Oh, okay.
And we saw messages between them, and nothing seemed weird. But you can look through that as well. His name is
I assume another middle school boy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you guys talking to Stephan out here?
Yeah, they're right out there. They just wanted to ask him a couple things, but I figured I'd just ask you this at the same time for the sake of time. Do you recognize this vehicle at all? I wanted to see if I could. So I know it's pretty grainy. It's this one right here. That one's tough, but does that look familiar at all?
No.
You wouldn't know that anywhere?
I don't know that part.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Yeah, so this is it's hard to show you on my phone because the quality of the video just kind of gets worse when I've downloaded it from the church's computer, and the quality just gets kind of worse. Can you make out, like, the shape of that being black shorts and that being possibly a green jacket?
I see the green.
Would that I mean, I know it's very difficult to recognize, but would that be something, some clothes that she owns, or
Yes.
would the quality be too bad for you to be able to tell based on that?
I mean, the quality's terrible. But
Yeah.
the color scheme.
Would that be akin to something that she owns?
Yeah.
Gotcha. And the hair looks a little dark in the from here.
Dirty blonde. It could pass for dirty blonde.
That could possibly
yeah.
be her. Okay. Is that? I can't tell just from looking at it, but is that Stephan's car? It looks a little darker from.
Now, that was a tactic. That was an investigative tactic where she has him confirm or he has her confirm what, some type of vehicle. And then all of a sudden he slips in the bad guy's car where they already had it. They had pictures of it leaving it. And remember, the police reported that they saw the victim in the right front seat, possibly slumped over. And later they report in the press conference that they believe she was already deceased. So what he's doing here is he's testing the water, okay, by slipping that quickly.
There, but
It's very good, Chris. I also think that
I almost can't tell.
I don't know if he's doing it on purpose, but
Well, he's doing it on purpose.
he's done a lot of things on purpose. No, but I'm saying what I'm about to say, I don't know if he's doing it on purpose, is that he's using a technique I use often with, not that I should share it here, in case I'm going to interview them one day, you never know, right? But he's using vocabulary words that are a little more advanced to see if she doesn't understand them. So, for example, he used the word akin. That is not a word that a person with like borderline IQ or lower or something is going to understand necessarily. And I do that sometimes to get a vague sense of what I'm dealing with in terms of a person's intellect. And I think it's important because in the beginning of this conversation, I noticed people in the chat saying, I believe she has borderline IQ. She's not a very well. I think it's important to point out that there's vocabulary that she's following here that strongly suggested that she's brighter than that. So I just want to point that out, that could be an intentional method. I use it, but I don't know if other people do.
So here's a question, Gary, real fast, is explain how a mom can be shown a photo of M performing an essay and respond if she doesn't know who's in the photo. So basically she's playing it off is what
listen, Chris, when you have, it's complicated because I've also worked with people who are so deluded about a person that are so incapable of seeing fact that something could be in front of their face and they'll be gaslit into believing that it isn't true. I've had people tell me things like, I walked in on my partner in bed with someone else and I screamed and I yelled and I threw a tantrum, and I'll say, did you leave? No, somehow he made me understand that it wasn't what I thought it was.
Right.
And I'm like, you walked in on it. And they're like,
I had a case like that where they walked in and the perpetrator jumps up and goes, it's not what you think it is.
Yeah, right. Like,
and immediately they're like,
defense, right? It wasn't me.
What is it? Right? So yeah, exactly.
It's a Toyota, or looks a little different.
From the front, looks different. That looks like a Toyota from the front.
From the front, it looks different, right?
And then from the side, it could be.
You hear what he did? I thought it was Stephan's. So what he's doing is he's giving her options.
I mean, yeah, the grill is kind of the same a little bit. The headlights look a bit the same. Okay, cool. And I just wanted to see if you kind of were able to help me with that. So this whole living in the woods thing, I have people like tromping through the woods right now on horses and ATVs and all sort of things, but has she ever mentioned that before?
Just in that text that I saw.
Just that's the only time you've ever heard of it? Is she outdoorsy at all? Does she like camping?
We used to go hiking.
Okay.
But we haven't done that in a while.
Okay. Where did you go? Was it around here?
Where would we go? We'd go hiking in like St. Cloud. Lake Lizzie Preserve is what it's called.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's not too far.
It's about 35 minutes away.
Yeah, okay.
On 180.
See, what he's doing is he's feeding her known information.
Yeah, he really is to be commended, Chris. I'm telling you, he's doing a
The
fabulous job.
he's a pro. He's a pro. This is textbook, and I love it because he's done his homework before he sat down with her, and he had already seen the photos. He'd already read that she wanted to run and hide in the woods, and look how he presented that question. Hey, this whole thing in the woods thing, what's that all about? And mom turns it into, the woods thing. That I thought that was a spontaneous response from the mother that, well, we go camping. I don't think Maddie had shared that piece of the puzzle. And I think for him, that was okay. That was a good answer. I wanted to hear that answer. That's just my
like Lizzie Preserve. We've also walked Shingle Creek before, but we haven't done that in a very long while.
Got it.
But no, I know the thing is, I started talking to her about World War III. I was talking about, like, hey, this is going on.
See, she's confused. She's not being deceptive. She's saying, okay, well, what is this? Okay, well, yeah. Well, we talked about the Palestinian problem and World War III and all this other stuff. And so mom starts filling in the gaps for her own understanding of previous conversations with her daughter.
Palestine and Israel right now.
Oh, so you're talking to her about the wars.
I was telling her, I was talking to her about just what's happening politically, and I'm like, I don't know what that means for us, but we'll see what happens. But I've talked to her about World War III, so that's what I'm just saying.
How long ago was that? I mean, is that something that might have impacted her?
Yeah, I feel like that's why when I read that conversation, I'm like, oh, that's directly related to me talking to her about what's happening in Israel, Palestine, and the potential World War III that might happen from that.
Okay.
And that's why she said she wanted to go live in the woods.
Okay, got it. All right. No, just wanted to figure out where that might have come from. Maybe help me see if she just wanted to be in the outdoors.
Definitely. The World War III conversation, that's definitely me.
Okay.
Or maybe
it's fine. I mean, it's
maybe
fine.
she wanted to get out of an abusive situation and run away.
Well, you see, that's why Maddie said it. That's where she wrote it. I want to, in one of her journals, I want to get out of here.
So one thing that I think I may have misheard you say.
This is classic. This is as he's walking away with the trench coat and he turns and goes,
right.
Yeah.
Earlier, but I want to make sure that I have it absolutely clear. Is on Sunday night, y'all went to bed around 11, and the reason that you sent her upstairs with Stephan was because you had work in the morning, was it? Or you just started a new job?
I just started a new job, and I haven't been sleeping well.
Oh.
I take psychiatric meds every night for my bipolar.
Okay, he gave her two options. You because you had to be to work in the morning because you started a new job. This is the old, if somebody's lying, I'm going to let a little piece out. Where somebody says, I went to the movie. Okay. Well, then you can come up with, then you were probably there when the guy had the heart attack.
Right.
Right.
Right. I know where you're going. Yeah.
Okay. Right. And now they gotta go, okay. And if they start, pulling the 1, 2, 3, slickaroo here, hey, you own them. And that's what he's doing.
Bipolar disorder, and if I don't take them the right way, eat, and go to sleep on time,
They don't work. Gotcha.
So I was just like, hey, I really need these meds because I forgot them the night before. I forgot them, I think, Saturday night. So Sunday I was not myself. So I asked, I'm like, hey, I need to be medicated. I need to sleep. Can you take care of the morning duties so I can go and sleep?
See, right there, she's saying, I need to be medicated. I need to sleep. I wasn't feeling myself. Okay. And at the conclusion of the interview, she says, and I have bipolar. I need my medication or else I'm not normal. These are things that they're learning as they're speaking with her that within 12 hours.
Gotcha. All right. No, I just wanted to make sure I understood you right, because I was like, did you have work in the morning? Or I didn't write that down, and I wanted to make sure I heard you okay. Are there any cameras in the neighborhood that you know of? Does anyone have any ring cameras? Do you have any security cameras out front?
I'm gonna say there are cameras in the front. There are cameras in the back gate as well.
Okay.
I know one neighbor around here has a Ring camera, but I didn't want anything like that.
Okay.
Hey, T, how are you?
And if you don't mind, just try to keep people out of because I have a canine that's coming. If you don't mind, they're going to try to run another track from the church and from here.
Okay.
To see if we can maybe just try it again. You know, last night it didn't work out because the dog lost interest and they weren't able to continue. But I figured, you know, it's worth another try. The dogs are pretty good, so just try to keep them out of her room. We're probably going to use like a... Does she have dirty laundry or like a hamper?
Her most recent dirty laundry is on my bathroom floor, and we've walked around it. We haven't touched it.
Okay, just keep people off of it.
Yeah.
Just let and just and as much as you can, try to avoid crowding the front door for the dog.
Yeah.
So that they know where to go from. Okay.
Just let me know when they're coming.
Yeah, I'm gonna get. They're gonna call me when they're on the way. But just as much as you can, try to keep the scent pretty fresh. There you go. Cool. All right. And another thing I just wanted to confirm.
And one other thing.
Because I know the last night was a long night. But you said you said when you woke up around 9, you left your house at 9:30.
Well, you know, and that is a great question, Babs. But here, this is an interview part of M being found. Why isn't she emotional, worried, asking for help? Well, you know, actually, that's a great question. But, you know, remember, they did call the police, and she is cooperating at this point, 100% trying to figure out what's going on. So I think there's still a lot of confusion going on early on, but that's a great point. But they don't know what's going on, and that could be a red flag for them too emotionally.
For your doctor's appointment, and Stephan hadn't come home yet, and then he called you at 10. You were
like 10:15, yeah.
10:15ish to have the conversation.
Agreed.
McDonald's and
yeah, she didn't want McDonald's. That he came home. I think he had accidentally left his phone at home.
Yeah.
So he was just letting me know because I had called him multiple times. So he was just returning my call, going, "I'm so sorry, I left the phone at home. I went to the vape store. I waited there for a little bit. Nothing. Nobody was there. He came back home for a little bit."
This discoloration right there looks like transfer.
And then
of what we don't know yet.
And then what time did you get home again? Was it around 11?
Let me see. I'm going to say around 11:15.
Because I think if I heard you right,
that looks like blood.
First time you got home at 11 and you and Stephan were both here, and then he left to go to the vape store again.
But only the lab will tell us.
I did see him. Yeah.
Okay.
So now we have 2 cars in play.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to make sure I had that because, like I said, sometimes you forget to write things down, and
that looks like purge.
I don't want to misremember. But okay, that's all I have for you right now. We're still looking. I mean, that's unfortunately the best update I can give you. Is we're all out and we're everywhere, asking people and looking. And I know your family's also doing the same. So. If you get anything new like that thing you sent me just a little bit ago that I can look into, just keep on sending them to me, okay?
Yeah. Were any of those helpful about the vehicles?
There's something for me to look into, to look for license plate readers and stuff. As of right now, I haven't been able to find anything else or confirm it, but I mean, it's still helpful for me to, in case something else comes across in the future. So, just, yeah, if you receive anything else, let me know. But I mean, do know that obviously, just like that kid pranked you earlier, because it's so public, you're going to have kids doing that. So don't be too scared by it if someone does that again. Okay. All right. Thank you. Yeah, I'll let you know when they get here.
4-11313. Today's date is February 27th, 2024. The time is 23:32 hours. Gonna speak with Jennifer Soto. Hey, Jennifer. I haven't introduced myself. My name's Myra Taglo. Okay, I'm a detective with the sheriff's office. Do you mind if I talk to you? Do you mind if we talk over there by the car? Can I be up inside? That's fine.
Yeah, where? Inside the house?
In the car.
Yeah. Okay.
Here.
Okay, this is, there's a lot of confusion about this. Okay. You'll notice it's black. Okay, remember the white car I was talking about?
Yeah.
Okay, so what they did is they threw all kinds of red wop on it. Okay, and this is where you start getting these dried fluids start to pop. Okay, and that's what's going on. And see that there's a fluid that's moving here, but it's evaporated. See how it's dripping, coming down? What that is, nobody knows until you test it. Okay, but that with the red wop, which is powder backwards, POWDER. We used to just, as a joke, we'd say that's red wop. Okay, and there is a red wop powder too, by the way. But what this is, that marking right there is really interesting because it's moving from left to right. You'll notice it starts on the far left and it starts to come down, but it's a swipe, a transfer of something. I had a case where a taxi driver was killed in the front seat, and the suspect had shot him from the back seat.
Oh.
And somebody had put a cup on top of the cab, and we had the ring of a cup. Okay, but it had evaporated. And so when the investigator or the evidence techs threw red wop on it, we had a circle, a black circle, just like this. So this could be somebody pushed against the vehicle and moved. It could be somebody holding something, trying to open the door and transferring, maybe bumping, trying to get them into the car. There's a whole what ifs that you could go for months and weeks and days, theorizing about this. But what we definitely know is this is the kind of photograph you would want to take into the interview room with Sterns and drop it on the table and say, we found this on the side of the car. Can you explain this for us? You can clearly see this is swipe. This is moving. But you'll see, right then and there, you'll see it's also coming down because the bottom, you can't really see it, but this was an impact. This one right here with the farthest spikes, that's something hitting the car. Okay? And, it could be anything. It could be a blanket with something in it, with fluid on the outside of it of some sort, but it's an impact. And then it's moving to the right. So it's a swiping of some sort. Just think of it when, remember when I did the Murdoch thing, where, his father shot him at the top of the door where that professor.
Oh, look at the baby.
See that? And notice how the rest of the car has powder all over. And they haven't got the doors open yet.
Lock?
No, it should be fine.
Okay. Over here, please.
Are you going to be able to go back home soon?
I'll explain it in a second. Okay? I have a question too before we get started.
Now, this is interesting. You have some type of fluid as the door is opened, and it's on the, near the lock mechanism when the door is closed. So that means if we take what's going on outside, it's moving inside to the car.
Oh.
It's moving in. Okay.
Somebody said something like somebody in here has a gun. Is that a true statement or a false statement?
That's a true statement.
Okay, where is this gun at right now?
It is upstairs in the guest bedroom.
It's not like in any of these cars out here.
But it's something scraping. When I did Brandon Wilson and Matthew Checky, I had a transfer like this on the wall. And that was the only thing I had in that crime scene, as brutal as it was with that little boy. But it was from the suspect. He had put the knife in his pocket, and he had some of the victim's blood on the side of his shirt or sweater. And when as he passed, he swiped the wall by accident, and that transferred. And this is the kind of consistency with something.
No, I don't believe so. I think it's upstairs in the guest bedroom. Bedroom number 4. It's got a number 4 on it.
Okay, how certain are we of that?
But it was enough to where it's moving. When it hits a stop, it starts to pour down. It could be anything. This is a really interesting thought. Perhaps suspect holding body up against car. That is a interesting thought. And CM, I would not eliminate that as a possibility.
As far as I know, the gun is inside upstairs. I haven't heard of it being in the car.
It's moving.
Let me just move my purse.
That is movement. And it's going left to right. Left to right. So is there a struggle going on? Is the victim, remember, you're moving potentially a bag of concrete, large, and it keeps going.
If you want to take
Is he moving the body? Is he trying to get the body from one place to the next? If that's human fluid or pain. And see the door well there on the inside.
If you want to start the car and just give me 1 second.
Yeah. Let me make this. I know it's not the most comfortable, but at least you won't be cold. You see, the white car has now turned different colors. That's why I said this is a white car.
Chris, I love the poetry of these things, but seeing that white car suddenly become black, it's like symbolically, you imagine that pure looking house, with all the white, and now the truth has been cast on it, and the whole thing is suddenly black. There's something about that white, pure color that bathes everything in this case, and then the truth showing what it really is. It's interesting, that word luminol, that idea of light being thrown on something, and suddenly anyway, I just find that fascinating. Luminol sounds like a bad pun for, all things are lit up, and but that's
this car.
That's what it is, right? Yeah.
This car's in play because the cadaver dogs are going to hit him. So I think he moved her from one car to the next.
Like a cold super.
Yeah, I'm the same way, so I understand. Do you want to take a seat right over here? And then she's gonna.
Now that over by the gas tank could be gas.
Don't worry about it.
Remember, I said a fluid that could be evaporated.
First of all, it's also a symbol and realizing of lost innocence. White turned black. But people in the audience are saying, "Oh, do you think this is proof that he moved her?" Well, I don't think there's any question that she was deceased and moved. Right? I mean, no one posed. Does anyone question that?
Well, I don't think they knew at the time, but they definitely felt that this car was in play. And this toll tag here is really important. The Easy Pass system, they've got him. That toll tag right there will give them more information they need. Where that car? her back now.
Do you have your keys on you?
Here, have a little closer just in case.
Sorry, this isn't my car. There we go. Okay, so I'm not sure if he introduced himself, but his name is Luis Acosta. Okay. We both work for Orange County Sheriff's Office. So I understand you spoke with the other guy earlier with Detective Frank Hunt. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. We have officially taken over the case, okay? So
Are you guys with Kissimmee?
No, we're with Orange County. It's just a different unit.
Oh, okay. What unit are you with?
We're with sex crimes.
Okay.
It's just because of her age and...
Okay. You see, I think people didn't catch that. So she's with sex crimes. Okay. And then she says, well, because of her age. Okay. No, that's because they found all the stuff.
Right.
Okay. They went into this,
is why we take over. Does that make... I know it's kind of confusing, but like we have like different rules in Orange County, and depending on like people's age,
you notice how everything was kind of crushed. It looked like it got stuck with a bunch of paint and stuff. I'm 2 hours into this, so I want to make sure we get through.
we sometimes take over investigation when it comes to missing persons.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So when you talked to him earlier, I kind of got like a brief synopsis of what happened. I understand you have a new job.
Yes.
Okay. And if I say anything that's incorrect, please correct me. Okay. You have a new job, and last night you asked them to go sleep upstairs because you wanted to get rest. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. What time was this? Do you remember? It doesn't have to be like exact time, but like just... Oh, and then yesterday she had her... Or Sunday she had her birthday party, right?
Sunday she had her birthday party.
Okay, what time was that party at?
It started at 3 o'clock.
Okay, from 3 to what time?
I'm not sure. I wasn't there. I was at work.
Oh, okay, you weren't there.
But I know my sister was home around 8:30.
Uh-huh. Was Stephan here at that time?
I'm not sure if he was here at the time, but I think he got here a little bit after. And he was like, okay, she was already doing what she was supposed to. She had taken her nighttime meds, and she was getting ready for bed, like taking a shower. She'd take showers at night. So he's like, okay, she was already on it. I didn't get home until, I'm going to say 10.
Go.
Do you agree with me? The interview style and perhaps the gender of the person speaking to her is bringing out a very different response style in her.
I think she was expecting an aha moment, and the gal here, I mean, she's just right. Boom, she's on it. Boom, boom, boom. Right. Notice that the homicide or the homicide guy is just kind of,
Yeah, he is more that Columbo style.
He's CLV. They call that crimes of violence. CLV. Right. All homicide falls under CLV. Go ahead.
Yeah, I definitely think she's a little different. With
they talked.
Yeah,
and it's good cop, bad cop. Good cop, bad cop. Hey, we're with sex crimes. Yeah. Reaction. Or boom. Here comes the pepper balls. They're going to be a little bit faster. Fastball inside. Curveball, knuckleball. Because she's going, okay, let's see if there's any lights on here.
30.
Okay.
And then at 11, I sent them to bed.
Did Stephan make it to the party?
No.
Okay. And then once you get here, you said you sent her to bed at 11. And the following morning, Well, I'm sorry, let me backtrack a little bit. You send them upstairs, right?
Mhm.
How many bedrooms are upstairs?
3.
Okay. Where?
In bedroom number 4.
Okay. And what about Stephan?
Bedroom number 4.
Okay. Is it normal for both of them to sleep in the same room?
Sometimes, when I really need a good night's sleep, I will send them upstairs. But when also a lot of times we will sleep together in the king size bed, all 3 of us, or sometimes Stephan will go upstairs and in our bed alone. So it just really depends on what's going on that night with our schedules and what we're doing.
Okay. Where were you sleeping?
Downstairs in the king size bed.
Okay. Is it just you two here? Well, you guys have a roommate, right?
We have 2 roommates, and one of the roommates has a son who's here like a little bit more than half the week.
So what rooms do you guys use?
The room downstairs, the master bedroom downstairs, and room number 4.
That's where they collected all the video. Go ahead, Gary.
No. I'm sorry. I was just going to say that I think it is extremely important what she just said, because it tells us that the offender would have known that if he wanted to be isolated to a bedroom situation with the victim, he had to wait until a night when the mother complained of needing this private time and so forth, and he would have taken that into consideration, because it would have created a cover for the child to be sent into a bedroom situation, probably with the door closed, and so forth. And the mother wants to be left alone at that time. And I think that is exactly the kind of thing that and I know these offenders learn.
They look for it.
They look for it. And so probably, he's saying, she's dealing with a change in meds, or she's dealing with that. Now she's going to want some alone time. And you can bet that at some point he said to her, honey, darling, if you're having a difficult time sleeping, you know what I'll do? I'll make a sacrifice. I'll go sleep with Maddie in the room there, and then you could be by yourself. Because it always has to be posed as care, That's one possibility. The other possibility is that she knew what was going on and was complicit in the whole thing. But the facts, they lean you more in the direction of some kind of naivete, or being controlled or abused or something. But I don't know.
Okay,
Right.
I want to say one thing while I'm thinking about it, based on what you just said, and dovetail into it.
Yeah, but you would agree with the point that he would have known that was a great way to isolate her, right?
And I would agree with the point. At this point in this interview, right, early on, they're going, no, mom knows something's going on here. Mom knows what's going on between him and her. And I'm going to say this real fast, okay? And they're thinking, okay, something doesn't smell right here in River City, okay? But then it turns into a homicide. Now they find her body, and now they're going, okay, what do we do with her? What do we do with her?
Right.
And there are meetings that take place, and I would submit to you at this point that they go to the DA and they say, look, here's what we have. Boom, 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 boom. And the DA says, who can put them together? The mother, but we think she knows about all the SA. Okay. And was just, blah, blah, blah. And this is a hypothetical, but there's a strong possibility that this is what could be happening behind the scenes. And this is why they have not charged her. They're not saying she's part of the homicide. They're saying that, things aren't lining up here, but if they hook her up and they hook him up, who testifies against them?
Right.
Who testifies against the mom that says, well, 100% she knew? Okay. Well, do they have witnesses that have come forward and says, now I know his father has said, look, we've told Jen, this is not right. This is weird, blah, 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 etc. But that's not enough to get a conviction beyond a reasonable doubt. Okay. Right. It's enough to say, it looks like a fish, swims like a fish and smells like a fish, but, it could be a turtle. And so, so that's, I think, what's going on here. And that's why they're trying to separate them.
Okay. So I'm sorry, it wasn't last night. It was the night before. Stephan slept in bedroom number 4 and you slept downstairs.
Yes.
In the master. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What time did you wake up?
I'm going to say around 8 o'clock in the morning, Stephan came into the room and was trying to put the leash on the dog. Mm-hmm. Somewhere between, he came into the room somewhere between 8 and 8:15. He came in to put the leash on the dog, and I got up to try to help him because my dog is kind of a nervous dog and I didn't want him to pee on the bed. So we wrangled him, put him on his leash, and he said, go back to sleep. And I said, okay. So I laid back and went back to sleep.
Okay.
I heard people in the kitchen. I'm not sure exactly who was in the kitchen.
Now, this is after, he comes in and gets the dog, blah, blah, blah. She hears things and she thinks it's her daughter.
As far as I know, I came downstairs to get ready in her. So she's got, she's kind of got a bedroom in the living room. If you go into the apartment, you'll see there's like one of those fake walls, separating half the bedroom. She's got like a desk with a bedroom and a TV and a dresser. But she'll hang out there during the day, but she never sleeps there. She always sleeps with me. And then the rare occasion upstairs. But most of the time it's with me.
Okay. Did you see her on Monday morning?
Visually see her? No.
Did you hear her?
I heard many people in the kitchen. I'm not sure if it was my roommate or her specifically.
Okay. Is your roommate a male or a female?
Female.
Okay.
They're both females.
When was the last time you physically saw?
Wednesday, 11 o'clock. I'm sorry. Sunday, 11 o'clock.
Sunday when you sent her to bed?
To bed. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then when you woke up, you said you woke up briefly because Stephan went in there. Did you go back to sleep?
Yes.
What time did you get up?
Let me see if I actually have my alarm set. No, I don't have the specific day on there. Let me check something real quick. I'm pretty sure I woke up around 9 o'clock in the morning.
Those are scratches.
And then
That's a scratch.
I left at 9:30.
That will be Maddie. They I guarantee you they swabbed that.
Yeah, probably.
I had an appointment.
I had a doctor's appointment at like 10:15. But they took a while. And then by the time they did my blood work and whatever, I think I got home somewhere between 11 and 11:15.
Okay. When you got back, was Stephan here?
Karen, can you put our
I'm
email
pretty
in?
sure he was, yeah.
What was he doing?
Just sitting in my room.
Thank you, Jenny.
At my computer desk on his phone.
Okay. What did you guys do?
Yeah, I love this. These are trail cams up there on the tree. They got this guy on so much film, they're going to make a movie out of him.
We chatted for a little bit. I asked him what had happened because he had called me earlier at 10. Let me see. Pretty sure he called me around 10:18.
What did he call you for?
To let me know that they didn't go to McDonald's as planned. He had asked her multiple times if she wanted to stop at McDonald's because that was the plan the night before, that they were going to wake up early. He was going to take her to McDonald's, do like a special McDonald's breakfast, and then drop her off at school early because she wanted to get there a little early. But on his way to school, she was very sleepy and wanted to sleep in the car. And she said she did not want to do McDonald's. She just wanted to be dropped off.
Okay.
Also to let me know that He left his phone at home because I had called him multiple times and he hadn't picked up. He had left.
Yeah, I don't think the detective believes her at this point. Do you, Gary?
No, but what's interesting is how obvious it is in the tone and the snippiness of the questions, the curtness of the, and I think that's where now no criticism, because I agree there's a little bit of a good cop bad cop thing. People have different styles, but I think what happens to work with this particular type of individual is more that Columbo style, pretend that you believe everything they're saying, and then you just ask questions like you're authentically interested and not in a gotcha kind of way, right? So you don't go, oh, really? What did he call you for? Oh, what, you do it like, oh, that. Oh, okay. Let me just make sure I got this all down, because every piece of information is going to be so important to find your little girl. Not making the person feel backed into a corner, because then they get kind of threatened and start to ramble and kind of say things that where they aren't kind of moving in a linear way and all that. I just think the style brings out something very different, and I also think, based on what looks like it may be part of the makeup of this individual, they might respond differently to a male figure, because I think that male figures have been probably for this individual a source of stability and terror.
Well, and I think that's probably why they played it like this.
It may be, right.
They wanted to keep her off guard because, the way she came at him, right there with the McDonald's thing, and then what happened, or however it was real, boom, and then what? Right? I.e., boom, you got to think. If you're lying, you got to think really fast. And it sounded, pretty interesting about, script here, but she hit, boom, he called me, and then what, boom, 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 boom. He didn't want to go to McDonald's, yada, yada, yada. And she just kind of runs it right down. But, is it a script? I don't know if I had time. And they're
by accident. He had went.
This is the other glove. Remember I showed the one where there are only 5? And this is number 6.
To the vape shop.
But then there was another one that showed 6. So I couldn't remember if it was in the front or the back, but one of them was missing a glove.
But they didn't open on time. So he had waited for quite a while in front of the vape shop. They didn't open, so he left and came back, and we hung out a little bit. Then I think he left again to the vape shop to go buy what he needed.
Okay.
Now, that's an interesting way of presenting his behavior. I think he went. I think. Yeah. It's not he said, I know, etc. So the question is she guessing, or was she told that and she's just parroting?
Do you want the name of the vape shop?
Yes. If you have it at the top of your mind, I'm sure we're going to talk again soon, and we'll have more.
No, I'm just saying because that might be helpful if you want to see like surveillance or anything.
This is the canine.
Okay, so at some point, I understand he gets like a flat tire, and he's not able to go with you to pick school.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And when you get to the school, how do you realize that she wasn't there?
So I went to go. I usually leave around 2:30 to pick her up. She gets out of school at 4. So I wait. It takes me about 20-25 minutes.
That's a Belgian Malinois. We used to call them alligators.
To get to the school, and then I wait about an hour for her to get out. I waited the whole time, and then when the bell rang and then it was time for her to come out, she wasn't one of the first kids like she normally is. And I realized I was holding up the line because everyone behind me had children, and they needed to get out because I was the first in line. So after about, I'm going to say, I think it was like 4:10.
Now, it's important to understand how a cadaver dog works versus a scent dog, right? In terms of a tracking dog. You'll notice the handler holds the leash a little bit different. He just kind of you're supposed to just kind of casually let the dog get an air scent, and then he'll go through and he'll kind of, point to where you want the dog to nose scent into the car. Okay. And you want him also to air scent around the car.
She didn't come out, and I was holding up the line, so I drove away. I said, maybe I forgot to tell her that I was picking her up that day, because I don't know if she knew that I wasn't working.
You don't want to hold the dog tight. You want all the slack to keep that.
But
you want to let him do the business.
I had assumed that she thought, she knew that I was going to go get her. So,
believe it or not, with a street dog, you want to tighten that up because you want him mad. Okay. But not with a cadaver dog. With a cadaver dog, you want him in scent mode, okay, to kind of almost play.
Because she never came out, I left and I went. She works less than, I'm going to say it's like a 3-minute drive from the school. It's very close. She works in the Hunters Creek Villages area. I drove that way, and I drove along the path that she would walk, and I didn't see her. And then office, I asked, hey, has she gotten here yet? They said no. And I said, okay, let me wait a little bit. And I parked back again on Hunter's Park Lane, I think. And I waited along that lane to see if I would see her walking. And I didn't see her walking. And it was about 4:30, 4:35. At this point, she should have. So I went back to the office. And then I was like, is she here yet? No, she hasn't gotten here. And I said, okay, hold on. Let me see. I called her best friend. And I was like, hey, are you... I don't know if I told her I was picking her up from school today or to walk to the office, but I don't see her anywhere. And she goes, no, she never came to school today. She didn't come to first or second period. And I said, what do you mean? We dropped her off close to school. She should have walked to school. She goes, no, she never made it to any of her periods. And I said, can you please check with your other friends in your other classes?
So what the handler is doing, whoops, what the heck happened there? Sorry about that. Let me go forward. I don't know where that went. What the handler is doing is putting the dog back in the car to regroup.
Didn't come to first or second period. And I said, what do you mean? We dropped her off close to school. She should have walked to school. She goes, no, she never made it to any of her periods. And I said, can you please check with your other friends in your other classes to see if she ever made it? She got back to me and said no. At this point, I started to panic because I realized something was wrong. I emailed one of her teachers, a few of her teachers actually, and one of them responded to me. He said she didn't make it to his period at all, and he checked all her other classes, and she didn't make it to school at all. That's when I knew something was truly wrong. And
Watch the behavior of this dog. I mean, they're such amazing creatures. When he's sitting there, he's looking at Dad going, remember, these are service dogs. These are working dogs. This is not your pet. Okay. And they train on real human cadavers. Okay. And so anyway, the dog's looking at him like, okay, Dad, I'm ready to go. And he gives him the command, and the dog takes off. And what he's doing is he's scenting the room. Okay. And you're going to see him start to move to the car.
Before that email or after that email.
There you go. Okay.
But I started panicking and freaking out because she should have been to school. She should have made it. And then I understand she forgot her phone, right? Yeah.
I don't know where.
Is it common for her to not have her phone? Yes. She's got ADHD. She's super forgetful. She doesn't even... She never realizes that she's in the shower for a whole hour. She loses track of time. She's very...
Look how the leash.
And then you guys went looking for her, right?
Totally.
Yes. Where did you look? Like...
Okay, that's an alert. Something's going on here, Dad.
Did you drive somewhere? Did you walk? Like, where did you go look for her? Okay.
Leash is on the floor.
After her best friend called me, actually, or I talked to her best friend on the phone, I went back to the school to see, let me check her official attendance. Let me see what's going on.
Going back.
They were already closed. Nobody was at the school. So I searched by backtracking into the school and then coming back out and seeing that there were no kids at the school at all. So then I drove.
Now he's laid down. That is an alert.
Office. Everything was driving.
And then I think that response from her teacher at that point. But
Did you come back to the apartment at any point yesterday once you realized she was missing?
Stephan was at home waiting for us to get back. And then when I told him something was wrong, she never made it to school, he completely hauled it back to me. And then we all stood there waiting for the cops to show up, and they didn't show up till like 7:30.
See, what he did is he took him out, let the dog get a new scent, and brought him back in just to make sure.
It took them a while to respond. I think they were looking for other missing kids around the area too. But yeah, no, we did not come back home until we were done with the police. We were done with everything. There was nothing else for us to do except come back
Where
home.
was her phone when all of this was happening?
With me.
How did you get the phone if you never came back here?
I took it with me to go pick her up from school. I was going to give it to her when she got in the car and be like, listen, you forgot your phone again.
See how he looked at Dad? The dog looks over at the handler like, Dad, I got something here. And now he goes into, he lays down. That's an alert. Now, that scent could be coming from the back seat, could be coming from the tire, could be coming from the trunk. But either way, that scent is in the back of that vehicle.
And then let her play on it.
When I was a dog handler, for those of you that didn't know, but my dog was a street dog. We used to call him Irk the Jerk. In fact, he's up there in some of those photos behind me. But he wasn't trained on cadavers. But, we had cadaver dogs, meaning, available to us. And this dog right here, man, I'll tell you what, that's a solid alert.
I'll do that sometimes when she forgets that I bring the phone with me.
I think we should pause a moment and give a special thanks to these magnificent creatures. I happen to be a dog lover, and when I think about all the good they do, even in solving crimes and so forth, so loyally and with such selflessness, and I mean, it's just, don't you love them?
Yeah. It's the best job in the world. That dog saved me so many times. I can't even, and it's the greatest job because, you get them on a 30-foot lead, and I can tell you how many bad guys we chased into brush, and you can't see anything in front of you, and that dog is gone. But you feel that leash, and he's pulling, and he's pulling, and he's pulling. Yeah. And then all of a sudden you hear, and you go, get him, boy, good boy. You go, man.
That's so good. I heard a story once about a guy whose German Shepherd was so devoted to him that when he died, the German Shepherd used to go sit on his grave.
Yeah, that's crazy.
No, it doesn't shock me.
Irk had a full police funeral. He died in the line of duty.
He sure did.
Yes, he did. So anyway, we'll do a show on him one day.
Afterwards. But I had brought it with me to go pick her up from school.
Okay. And you works where?
I won't get you the address exactly. Yeah.
And then, did you at any point check her phone out while you had it?
Yes.
Cool.
Tell me about that.
Okay. Actually, I started looking, but I could not concentrate on reading anything. I was too panicked and too worried. I handed the phone to my sister. Mm-hmm. She's the one, and my niece. They both started going through her texts. I saw her texts. Mm-hmm. Nothing seemed weird. No weird random people. Everyone is someone I was familiar with or had heard about. Mm-hmm. They checked her Roblox. They checked her Discord. I checked her Discord as well. There was nothing weird. One of the police officers taught me to look at deleted text messages. Mm-hmm.
Now, it's interesting. They bring the pup back over to the other car. The first one where they have the video potentially of this car with her in it.
We looked at.
So the question is, was her life taken? And if so, was there enough, initially for the dog to hit?
Those as well. They were random.
And that's why it's important that that second car gets into play.
Them text messages deleted. They weren't anything. Do you remember where you were when you were looking at her phone?
Yes.
Which is where?
Let me see.
He goes into the car, comes out.
Is it okay if I call her?
But you're not getting the same solid alert.
And then, while she answers, were you guys, when you guys were looking for her, did you guys keep looking for her in the Hunters Creek area or somewhere else?
Hunters Creek area.
Okay. Did you guys come back here at any point?
No.
What time did you guys come back home?
Oh.
I think he's hitting on the back seat there. You can't really see him because he's sitting. Oh, no.
Okay.
Keeps trying to go to the back seat.
What time did we come back? What time did we come back? That was a very good question. I was gonna say it was like somewhere between 8 and 9 o'clock p.m.
Did you guys go back out after that?
Stephan went back out.
And this was last night, right?
Yes.
Okay. Where was after this?
With me.
Okay. Did you leave the house at any point with her phone after this?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay.
Hold on. No, I think it's been home all day today, too.
It's been home all day today?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
What time did the police take her phone?
Oh, just kidding. Yeah, they took it. I don't have it anymore. What time did he take the phone? I've made so many phone calls today and seen so many people today that I
was it
don't
light
know.
out or dark out?
It was light out. It was
still
Detective
light.
Hunt still yeah, it was during the daytime.
And then but other than that, her phone was here all day.
In the morning, yes.
Did you guys take the phone anywhere other than when Detective Hunt took the phone?
I think it's been home all day. I don't think I left the house with it.
Okay. Did Stephan have access to the phone?
I'm sorry, I took my medicine, so I feel a little spacey. I think I've had it with me. I think it's been with me.
Okay. Did you go through her phone today?
Yes.
Okay. Where was that at?
Here.
And what were you looking for at that time?
To see if there was anything else. What we couldn't access on Monday night was...
The most interesting piece of evidence in this car, in my opinion, is that bag. And of course, the blanket where you saw the luminoa blast on that.
Right.
But that bag also, but then again, you have to take into consideration, SS's father said this was his old car and they had a dog that had a tail issue and there could be
roadblocks.
animal blood
So
in
my
that
niece
car.
came over
But
and
this
logged
bag,
into her roadblocks
that's
and checked out
fresh.
messages. But then they were also, my sister was also looking for her phone to see if there was anything.
Here at the house?
Yes.
And that was today?
Yes.
That right there that's disturbing for me.
Why?
Go ahead.
No. Why? Why is it disturbing?
Again, it looks like maybe coughing of some sort. It could be that kind of stuff, but the lungs are engaged already. So could be, asphyxiation taking place. It could be did he use the bag? Did he use manual? Was it hands? what's going on here, right? Is it an after effect after she's gone? Does he put it over, over her body, over her head, wrap her in the blanket? Now we don't have as much, et cetera. But that blood right there, or what appears to be blood, it'll be, because you'll notice that there's clumps and then there's very small velocity type of, blood. You'll see. And so it's like, a lot and a little combined.
Right.
Okay?
But if she was strangled, which is, we don't know, right? But let's say,
Aspirate.
why is there blood? So people are asking that. Why would there be blood if somebody's choked?
Well, because as somebody is choking, he could be, breaking things, the hyoid, and that will now all of a sudden start to, manifest itself through purging of some sort.
Right. We also don't know if the blood could be ante-mortem or post-mortem, where you're moving a body and they're scraping against things, or,
well, blood like that is somebody, aspiration.
The way it looks to you, you're making you're saying that you can deduce that this is something coming out of the throat.
Right. He could be releasing because he's not adding enough pressure. He could be adding, he could be releasing. And, it's very difficult to strangle somebody. It takes a long time, believe it or not. And if the victim is fighting, if they're trying to get, there's a whole bunch of things. I don't want to go into it with Maddie,
Right.
But this is the kind of indication, even on the dashboard or the right front passenger side, with, on the upside there, where, if he's hit her in the mouth, if he's punched her, you could have blood from the mouth, where, if she went like that, and that will, also get that. But this is very consistent for me. I think this is problematic. And the fact that it's in the back seat on a bag, okay, this could be, dogs don't really aspirate like that. The spread the butter. Dogs don't kick out blood like that. Now, could it be from their tail or something that? Yeah, it could be, but the problem is you have different sizes there. Okay. Right. That's like, that's the problem that I'm having here. And it's in the front seat on the right front passenger dashboard.
Oh, I was just going to say, Chris, the other thing that bothers me about this case is we don't know if something happened that made this offender abruptly begin to do something that led to her death. For example, there are some cases where you are assaulting someone sexually with such violence that they die, or you're impulsively snatching them, by the throat or something. Or it could be that even at her birthday party, he's sitting there, everyone's celebrating the milestone of her turning 13, and he's thinking, how much longer do I have to act like, stepdad of the year here before I could take her off and kill her? And I am chilled to think that it's probably the second. I think this is a calculating, cold-blooded reptile of a man who probably decided there was a reason to get rid of her, and is sitting there scheming this ridiculous story he's going to come up with and feed to the, to everyone, probably even there. I mean, don't you think, Chris, that he's sitting there looking at her thinking, got to get rid of her. She's got to go. Happy birthday, honey.
Yeah, I mean,
it's horrifying.
Well, I mean, is she alive when she leaves the house and gets in the car? And I think she's on video getting in the car, right? And then they leave, and then he comes back, and they can see that she's deceased. That's the first time. And guys, keep me honest over here in the chat. That's my understanding of the sequence of events. So she's alive. So that means there's a probability that this may have happened in the car. Okay, there's not a lot of evidence in the house, or else we would have had those crime scene photos, right? We would see that, okay? And you would see other things, but you're seeing situations within inside of that house or within that car. Now the question is, does he return and then pick up all, items of, disposal. What am I going to do here? And maybe this bag's in play as a result of that, and everybody, I'm reading over here. Somebody said they found her hide board had been broken. Okay, well, that's right there is strangulation. Okay, and so if that's the case, I haven't seen the autopsy reports. I don't know, but if that's what's being reported, I have no idea where it's being reported or why. However, this would be, I'm just going off of this. I'm not going off of what people are saying. I'm going off of this, and my experience is telling me, okay, this doesn't look right. DLR, this is consistent with strangulation. That would be my assessment on this, looking at this, through another window. I want to keep.
And it would be a very common mechanism of eliminating a victim when you have been abusing them sexually. It's a very common mechanism. It's very intimate, hands-on. We don't know if that's what happened, if it involved a ligature or bare hands and so forth. Could also get blood, by the way, if someone has sharp nails and they're digging them into a throat. You can get a little bit of blood. But I think, Chris, do you think they would have checked his hands for DNA under the nails, things like that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they would have taken clippings of hers and clippings of his.
Yeah.
Yep. And this is, yes, I remember this, Maya. Okay, that they said she was deceased when they left the complex. The question is, which time? Because he came back. Okay, variety of different time. That's the question. Only for me. I don't recall that answer coming in. And that they did say they saw her slumped in that vehicle on the video from the apartment complex.
Okay, do you guys have her account information as far as like her iCloud and all that stuff?
See right there. I mean, you've got dirt. See the dirt there? Okay, dogs don't create that kind of dirt. Look on the upper left-hand corner. That's some type of dirt. And look at this to the right here. Okay. I mean, could a dog be, bloody tail, kicking that off? Yeah, possibly. Okay, but that's a little more consistent with, human.
Or is it just on her phone?
I could be wrong, but not on the dashboard. Up front, I'm going on the dashboard. That's what's got me.
I've had a hard time logging into it before when I was trying to get her a new phone. Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure if I can log in to her
and this is that blanket
cloud
that exploded.
I think it's all on her.
Look at that. I mean, that is really problematic. I don't think that's a lot of dog blood, in my opinion.
Probably not.
No. That kind of, whatever that is, if it's blood, those enzymes are popping.
Okay. The reason I'm asking is because they took the phone and they downloaded it, right?
That's what it looks like without Blue Star or Luminol.
They can see like if somebody tries to access her accounts and stuff like that. So if you guys do have access to anything, if you guys can refrain from like logging back in.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah.
So it doesn't look like she if she tries to like access her accounts from like somewhere else, that way we can track that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. So they're asking if you can, just try not logging into any more of her accounts so that when he's going through the phone, it doesn't look like she's trying to log on from somewhere else.
Yeah.
Okay. Was there anything else that they wanted us to clarify?
Did you find the address to your...
So the question is, why so much? That could be post-mortem purging as well, meaning your body starts to loosen and let go of all of those fluids. Okay. So, Gen X Pop. I love that name. Love it.
Sorry, let me call her again.
Or what's the name of it?
Oh, if I could remember her business name, I don't know.
What kind of business is it?
It's an insurance business. I think Advanced Insurance something group.
Terrific lady.
And then I know that you've been with us for the most part of the day, right?
Yes.
Thank you, Karen.
We have, I want to say maybe like 40 people out here, okay? Between us and Kissimmee. And we're all, going to be working basically overnight and throughout the day tomorrow until we, okay? Tonight, what we're going to do.
Okay, now listen carefully what she says here. The detective is telling Mom, look, we're basically taking over your place. Okay. And, we don't want anybody in, unfortunately, yada, yada. Will you cooperate? Yeah, no problem. But listen how Mom responds. She tells her, I'm bipolar. I need my medications. Can I get in to get my medications? Okay. Or else I won't be normal. So that has to be taken into consideration as an investigator. As an investigator, you have to take that. Did I just hear that correctly? And you'll notice they follow up where the detective says, yes, absolutely, you can get your medications.
Is I know we already secured your house, right? We asked everybody to leave. So another thing that I'm going to ask is if you guys can find somewhere else to stay for the night, because we're going to have Kissimmee out here at your apartment for the rest of the night, because the people that come and like take pictures and all that other stuff are not going to respond until the morning. Okay, so nobody can go into the house for the rest of the night until the house gets, we need to take pictures and do other stuff with the house. Does that make sense?
Yeah, okay.
And unfortunately, because you guys have such a big apartment, it's not something that only one person does. Like, we don't do that, right? We have our forensics unit come out. And it's not something that one person can do by herself. So she has to wait until people come in, because they're on call after midnight, right? So she has to wait for the other people to come in the morning, and then they're all going to come in as a unit and try to get it done as quick as possible.
Okay. I need to go back into the house.
Mm-hmm.
I have medication that I have to take
Mm-hmm.
in order to be like normal.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a possibility that I can go back in there and get my meds?
Yes. Give me a few minutes, and then we'll try to figure out how we can get your medication. Okay, but that's something that we can definitely get. Okay. Does it make sense what I'm telling you?
Yes. I just don't know what we're gonna do about finding a place to go. But okay,
And then, because last in Stephan's car, we're also going to tow his car.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
Do you have any questions about anything that I'm telling you? Okay, so from now on, it'll probably be me getting in touch with you, okay? Not Detective Hunt. Okay?
Okay.
Do you understand everything that we discussed?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I get your direct number?
Yes.
Mom's job address, if I remember it correctly, is 13550 Village Park Lane, Suite 125. In Orlando, Florida.
That's in
Hunters Creek.
Hunters Creek, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Village Park Drive, you said?
Yes.
Yeah.
And 13550.
Yes.
Is that like an apartment complex?
It's a business building? I don't know. It's a building with a lot of business and offices inside.
And when did you say you were there?
I got there around 4. Well, see, I left and came back. So 4:45. I got there, and I think I stayed until they had left.
Were you there today? Stephan would be anywhere near that area today?
No, I don't think so. It's been with me. Oh, Detective Hunt went back to that office. I'm so sorry, and he had her phone.
Okay, he had her phone at that time.
Yeah.
Why did he go back to that office?
Because my uncle had walked the path along the trail, and he had found a wallet with not 90 but like credit cards and something that had somebody's state on it. So he went to pick it up to see if it was of any interest.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna give you my business card. I'm still here for a little bit longer. I'm gonna talk to Stephan one more time. There was like a few things that we needed to clarify with him, and then we're gonna, like, me physically, after I get done talking to Stephan, I'm gonna try to go get rest, right? Because we're gonna continue to do all this.
Yeah.
There's other detectives that are coming from my unit, okay? So, like, there's always gonna be somebody here.
Okay.
So just because I physically am not here, don't think that we're not physically working on this. We have a lot of people in our unit, right? So we're taking, like, shifts. And then the people we have violent crimes out here as well. And they're here till 4 a.m. So I don't want you to think that, like, just because I'm leaving, that we're not still actively working on this. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, they are here till 4 a.m. And then the day shift people that also work violent crimes come in around that same time. So they're going to take over. So, like, we have, like, people working till a certain time and then other people coming and taking over, okay? So, like I said, just because I physically am not here doesn't mean that we're not still working on something. Does that make sense?
Go.
Is she, is the mother aware that they're considering this a probable violent crime? Or do you think that by saying that's who's going to come and talk, it's sort of giving away the game here? Like, in other words, has she been tipped off which way they're thinking? Or at this point, you know, are they just saying matter-of-factly, that's who's going to come in and talk to you?
No, I think what's going on here is they don't know, what's going on, i.e., right? They're learning from her. And also they're collecting, they've got, like she said, the detective said, they got like 40 people on this thing right now. Okay?
Right.
So, what typically happens is information starts coming into the detective, and now in modern technology with cell phones and stuff, you're getting these text messages that are hitting. Okay. And her partner, who's probably sitting next to her, is doing one of these things, getting the messages in and kind of, hey, take a look at here and see what's going. And they're letting her run. It's kind of like a marlin. They don't, if she's going to take the hook and run, they're going to remember, lying is just as powerful as the truth, especially in a homicide investigation. You want the suspect to lie as much as you want to, because you're not investigating the person. Remember, you're always investigating information. So if that information is false, like Sterns gave, okay, oh yeah, we went to McDonald's, we went here, we went there, yada, I dropped her off, et cetera, et cetera. Well, that's all good stuff. That's good stuff, man. Keep going. We love that kind of stuff, right? Because now all of a sudden you've got, the cars, you've got the videos, you've got her backpack, you've got all of this stuff. And now then you have the body, and it's like, nice try, sports fans. And so that's what she's doing here. This gal is from sex crimes. So they already know about all the things they're going to jam him up on. And what they're doing for her is they're testing how much she knows and is she aware of it.
Right, but this is what I'm getting at, Chris. Let's say you were the parent of a child and the officer believes you that you really think this kid just like wandered off or got abducted or whatever it is. Okay. And now they say to you, violent crimes is going to come, sex crimes is going to, then you would then in that moment be aware that that's the way the evidence is pointing. I guess it's interesting because you almost wonder if they want to see if she becomes hysterical, because you would be, as a parent, hanging on to the hope that they don't think it's some violent crime or an essay or something like that. And now they've said that's who's going to be looking at. I know that if I were fortunate enough to have a child and something happened to them, I would be like trying every way in the world to believe anything other than that. And then if the officer said, yeah, we're going to have violent crime talk to you, sex crimes, whatever, I would have a heart attack, because it would be like somebody just popped the balloon of what I needed to believe.
Well,
and
that's
what I'm saying. It's interesting. I just think I can't imagine anyone in the audience saying they wouldn't have that reaction, because that's the moment where they've woken up the sleepwalker,
Well, and that's the point, right? I mean, right? Great point, Gary. And you see, they want her. They want any reaction that they get, and if they get no reaction, then I can guarantee you that detective and everybody went back to COV. They sat down. Everybody went around the table and said, "What do you got?" And the first thing this SA investigator said was, "Mom's dirty. There's something more going on here. We don't know what. I don't know what it is yet. I can't put my finger on it, but she's just not bouncing off the walls here. Yada yada, et cetera, et cetera." Okay. And so what they're interested in at this point, they don't know where Maddie is at this point. Remember, okay, this is like within 12 hours, and Maddie's body is not found yet. Now, are they putting all the pieces of the puzzle together? Absolutely. But in this situation, they want her to create stories or lies or whatever. Okay. Because later on, they may look at her and say, look, we only have a couple of options here. Okay. A, you're going to cooperate. Okay. Because we need a witness against him. And so I think they're letting her run on purpose, which is a great investigative technique. Mm-hmm. And it's in great investigative work. But I don't think any one of these investigators, in just my personal experience, and I've had a lot of guilty people, even on the other side, but I needed them. I needed them for the person that killed, that killed. Okay. And because later on you can always, figure something else out. But, we used to say today's victim, tomorrow's suspect. Okay.
Oh, Chris, absolutely.
Not Maddie. Don't misunderstand what I don't want anybody on the internet. That's not what I meant for her.
But I also think that you get the feeling that whatever the heck was going on between Maddie's mom and her stepfather, he seems to have convinced her that she desperately needed him. And when the way she's talking about those meds is exactly the way you imagine her thinking about him. I can't live without it. You're in the middle of investigating my missing child. Can I have my meds? It's like a thing of like, I'm going to fall apart with that. And I think you're absolutely correct, Chris. That's like they should have driven a wedge to try to get her to talk. You remember I was talking earlier about John Douglas's opinion of the Lizzie Borden case.
They did that.
Yeah, right. And I'm saying, when I was reading about John Douglas's take on that case, one of the things he said was, first thing I would have done, I would have driven a wedge between Lizzie and her sister. And I would have said to the sister,
well, that's exactly what they did. Right. By saying to her, remember the first guy's crimes of violence. Now the SA gal steps in and says, hey, we're sex crimes. And she goes, okay. Okay.
Right.
What they did is they fired a shot across the bow. And how did they do it? She came right at her. Boom. Here I come. Okay. And now all of a sudden, she's doing the curly shuffle if it exists. Okay, which is perfect. Textbook police work, old gumshoe, talking to people and letting them screw up.
quick, I don't remember if Detective Tagler asked, but yesterday when you guys were out looking, do you remember what time you were out looking till?
So yesterday,
See, here they're hitting her with a Columbo. Now the second guy's going to jump in and say, "Oh, one more thing."
I stayed in the office. My family went out searching.
Which office?
1355. Yeah.
You stayed until what time?
I'm gonna say somewhere between 8 and 9 o'clock. I left and then I came home.
You came straight here.
Yeah.
And then who was out? Your family was out looking?
Yeah, but I think they all stopped when. Actually, I'm not sure. One of my uncles might have kept searching along the trail, but I'm not sure until what time he was out. My dad as well.
What about Stephan?
Stephan went out sometime in the middle of the night and went searching, cruising around to see if he could figure out where she might be.
What car was he driving?
My car.
Was anybody driving Stephan's car?
No, just Stephan.
And what time was he out?
I have no idea. I fell asleep. But I know he drove my car because when I got into it, I said, "Oh, the seat's adjusted. Did you drive my car?" He goes, "Yeah, remember I said I was going to take a drive tonight to go search for her because he does have like insomnia. He can't sleep at night sometimes."
Now that's the first time somebody drops that he takes her car and he goes driving, quote, to search for her at night. Okay. And I think that's why the second car is in play here. Did he initially go and drop her and then go back, pick her up and move her? I don't have information on that yet, but that's what that's implying. And that's maybe why there's two cars involved here and why the dog hit on the second car. Because if he moves her, and maybe that's why you have the impact on the side of that white car of some sort, maybe that car is in play. The first car, the gray one, you can say, okay, what do we have? Well, we have her slumped over in the seat. Looks like she's not with us. Okay, how do we know that? Well, we have video, and I'm just playing, in the room with the detectives. Okay, right. What about the second car? Well, we got a cadaver hit on the second car. Okay, well, how do we know he had a second car? Well, she said he left using her car that night. So we didn't use the gray one? No, we used the white one. Okay, well, let's get on this second car. Let's find out where, do we have any LPR data, license plate reader data? Do we have anything, blah, blah, blah? And if so, now you have not only a primary crime scene, i.e., let's say the house, hypothetically, or the car, number 2. Number 3, a body dump site. Number 4, a pickup site back into a second vehicle. And number 5, ultimate body dump where she's dropped. Okay. So you have a lot of moving parts going quickly here.
Well, can I ask you an investigative question, Chris? It was, we would agree, an extremely risky thing to do this in broad daylight. And
concur.
Right, I mean, that tells you something about this guy, right? My question is, why would he take such a risk? Why did he have to get that body out of that house so urgently that he had to go in broad daylight when everybody would be out and about on the road, whatever? Why didn't he wait? Why couldn't he conceal the body a little while and do it in the dead of night? I don't understand. What do you think was the urgency?
Well, and that's where I'm going here in terms of, does he start to take her to school? And the night before, when he first shows up in town, does he victimize her? And all of a sudden, she's like, "I'm done with this. I'm not doing this anymore." Okay, and it goes, and all of a sudden, it goes into full on, strangulation in the car.
Right.
Now he's created a prisoner's dilemma. Right. If mom's at home sleeping, hypothetically, I don't know, but you asked me to hypothesize, so that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Okay, so now he's got to play here. There's people at the house. There's this, there's that. It's daylight. You know, what am I going to do? I got to go test the waters. Okay. So somehow he has to come up and concoct all of these other things going on. Okay. I.e., you've got cameras, you've got people. I got to come up with a story. I got to create, you know, this narrative. I cannot get, you know, I can't. What's that noise? I can't get into, you know, a whole bunch of other stuff. Okay. Karen is texting me saying we're over 3 hours. But I don't think he's the sharpest tool in the shed, nor is she. Okay. And I really believe they're both flying by the seat of their pants. And I think she's gullible enough for him to come home and said, yeah, blah, 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 the McDonald's story. And she goes, oh, okay, McDonald's. Yeah, well, she's at school. You know, yada, yada. I don't know. Let's.
So, do you think that he would, if he had his druthers, he wouldn't have done it where he had to do this in broad daylight? You think that that's an indication of what, the impulsivity of how this happened? That it just
I think it would have been a much better planned out situation than the spontaneity of, you know, all the things that he had to go through here. Now, is he a dirtbag? Absolutely, 100, 2,000%. Okay,
can't even think. It makes me sick.
It's not going to surprise me if he cops out and takes a plea and says, "Yeah, I'm guilty. I did it," etc. Okay, and by the way, I'm going to take a plea deal. Okay, not because he wants to. I just think there's so many problems here, but I don't think he's going to throw her under the bus.
Right. But don't you think, Chris, from a profiling perspective, there are indications here of a very organized guy, but there's also some disorganized elements. The broad daylight element, the stupid throwing the stuff in the dumpster, the getting, you know, driving around where there's going to be cameras all over the place and not thinking it through, the sloppy cover story. I mean, in other words, he's sort of a mixture of a clever schemer, but he's also kind of weird and doesn't really read people very well. And is, you know, there's some elements of this that show impulsivity and sloppiness, and so he's sort of a mixture. And you know what I'm saying? You get that feeling.
Yeah, I think he's disorganized, but he has been organized in his sexual assaults.
Right. I think he's a mixed kind of offender. Exactly.
But he's graduated into a different play here, and that play, it was his demise because now he has to, you know, do all the other thing. I don't think his plan was to take her out. I don't think there's evidence. I mean, there's horrendous evidence that's before us. Okay. But in his play, the fact that he kept all the CP, he tried to eliminate something.
Yeah.
There's all this other, you know, the tire. He tells the cops during the interview, "Oh, I got a flat tire." Well, you know, that's not somebody, you know, like Ted Bundy who wears a cast and whacks somebody on the top of the head and says, "Here, get in my Volkswagen."
No, but Chris, sex offenders who graduate, so to speak, to you know, so what we call it, who graduate or who what's the word we use, that escalate to murder, don't generally do it because there's a sexual pleasure in the killing.
Correct.
Even Hazelwood found that to be true. It's that they generally do it because too much force is used in the offense, or they have to get rid of a witness, and they don't tend to do that at this guy's age.
You have nailed this guy, Gary. It is an elimination murder.
That's what I think.
It's a spontaneous situation. Correct. I think it's post-assault, assault. And she got fed up and said, "I'm not doing this anymore." He blows a gasket. It goes into motion. And poor Maddie, who was trying to tell the world, this is happening to me. And she did not know how to do it. because she is the classic child victim of these horrendous monsters. I hate these guys.
It's that moment where you become aware that what's happening to you, and you know, it's like, I think he was grooming her and whatever, and my guess is she suddenly understood this isn't what somebody's supposed to be doing to me,
right?
Or she understood it for a long time. I mean, there was an indication she was going to talk, and she had to go. That's how I think happened. And you know, and the mother's role in this whole story, I have no idea, but one gets the sense that she was on a marionette string with this guy too. He is a master manipulator in a way. Chris, I watched that video footage. In fact, I was on Court TV analyzing the footage of him in the car with the cops, and the cop talking to him. And he is a snow job artist. He just makes it up as he goes along, tries to get sympathy, and it is like the most ridiculous nonsense you ever heard. And I remember I said to Vinny Pelton, I said, that's because he's used to this stuff working on kids. But it doesn't work when you snow job an adult with a story like this. And that's the thing. Those techniques, he's used to them working on people with the mind of a child. And she wasn't a child anymore. She grew up into an adult. And realized what he was.
That's another thing,
right.
You know, that he, as you know more than anybody, Gary, that he's a coward, and he's going to try to avoid the system as much as possible. When I say that, he's not going to want to go to the joint and realize that his package is already before them. So let me get through this. We're almost
especially like
5 minutes.
That's what's going on right now. But I'm not sure.
Well, you know what? That was the end of it right there. So the bottom line, what's your bottom line, Gary?
My bottom line is that the jury is out on what the heck was going on with the mother. Let's just reserve judgment. But whatever the heck is going on, this child was horrendously victimized. This man almost certainly is going to have other stuff that he's done in the past. You don't just start doing this at 37 years old. And I think that as this story unfolds, it's going to become clearer and clearer and clearer how he had everybody on a string and sits around thinking that people believe is crap. And I think it's just, unfortunately, you know, a story that is happening all over this country as we speak. We just don't know about it. If you are a person who is aware of someone having experiences like this, or a child comes to you and gives you clues of something like this going on, run, don't walk. You know, to Child Protective Services, law enforcement, so forth, because every minute that this is going on is a living nightmare for somebody. The scariest part of it is that these people dazzle you, so you sometimes don't even realize you're being victimized. That's the whole thing. If there is a book I would strongly recommend, one of the members of our foundation, Dr. Anna Salter, I think maybe one of the greatest living authorities on these kinds of offenses. I love Dr. Salter's mind. And she wrote a book called Predators. I strongly recommend it if you can stomach it, if you really want to understand the truth of how these kind of people work. Dr. Salter told me that she heard of a case of someone who had 1,250 victims.
Yep.
I mean, just think about that. And I really recommend you read that book. And of course, I touch on these kind of horrors and the new evil. And they'll be touched on in the book that Chris and I are working on with the foundation. But our job is to really just use a case like this to help everybody understand that this is a kind of a blueprint of an offense that's happening to thousands of people. And a lot of them, you know, it's like they have to be made aware that there are resources for them, because some of them are scared and some of them may not even realize they're being abused. And wouldn't you echo that, Chris?
100%, Gary, and well said. And we are victim centered.
Yeah,
here
right.
on this channel, and we are so grateful to each and every one of you that shows up for these Sunday night conversations. This one was long, but I think worth it and needed. And tomorrow, we're going to do another podcast called The Witness Box. If you've not heard that, please look us up on that, where we get into, just some free for all sometimes conversations. But if you are in any way, shape, or form aware of a situation, please call that SA hotline, 800-656-4673. And if you see something, say something. We're grateful to each and every one of you out there. We love you. We thank you. And we hope you'll continue to join with us on this journey. So with that, let's have a positive out. And I'm ready to go to Hawaii. How about you, Gary?
I am. And remember, Chris, audience, if you're the type of person who really wants to lean on a person, who's looking for somebody that you could depend on and so forth, remember, look for someone who loves you and shows you kindness, not someone who tries to control you, manipulate you, and hurt you. That is not love. That's just probably more of the same crap that you're running from. Don't remember that. Look for signs that someone loves you and cares about you and supports you and trusts you, not uses you and abuses you and condescends to you and makes you go to bed at night every night feeling like a crumb. Wouldn't you say, Chris? True men don't need to do that. Being a man, right? If that's what you're looking for, that's about love, the power of loving a person and being brave enough to have feelings and care about a person. Not Stephan Sterns. Stephan Sterns is a tiny crumb of a man underneath his masquerading as someone with power and that you can lean on. Just remember that.
And follow your gut. Follow your gut.
Follow your gut.
Everybody. Thank you for being with us. We'll see you on the next one.
Hard working every day. I'm stressed out 24/7, babe. No timeouts. Wish we could fly away. You and I go to our favorite place. Oh yeah. Make special memories together. I'll be your company now and forever. I say we fly away. You and me go to our favorite place. Feeling the sun on my face in Hawaii. With you, Hawaii. With you, Hawaii. With you, Hawaii. I need a summer breeze, some fresh air to put my mind at ease. No cares. You wanna come with me? Me and you go to our favorite tree. Are you ready now? We jump on a plane now. We're taking away. Yeah, we're taking away. Don't hesitate now. We're taking away. Yeah, we're taking away. We'll never come down. We're going away. Yeah, we're going away. You and me. Feeling the sun on my face in a way.